Hello, and welcome to Mustaches on Mustafar. I am beyond excited for tonight. I've got a very special guest. Some of you guys in the chat have probably come over from his channel, and so if this is your first time here, thank you very much. I appreciate you spending your time here. If you'd be so generous as to hit the subscribe button, I would greatly appreciate it, because it means a lot to some people. So some content creators that are newer to the YouTube realm, even one more subscription when you wake up in the morning and you see that number jump up by just one, it's super exciting. And so I'm really excited that all you guys are here. I hope you guys all have your coffee, and we are going to get into some awesome Book of Boba Fett discussion. And before I introduce my guest, I'm just going to give some sips. Oh my gosh, this is a lot more people than most streams. We got Average. Here's a sip for you. Leia Rose, here's a sip for you. Jacob 76, here's a sip for you. Green Lantern, here's a sip for you. Scott Westbrook, Strike, Dawn, Shane, and who else we got? Avella, Chaza, Pacific. Did I say Leia Rose? 2 Star Wars nerds. Mrs. 2 Star Wars nerds. I have Tara. Thank you guys for being here. Here's a big sip for everyone else. Oh, and Matt K. Okay. Everyone always jokes about when I'm at like 50,000 subs, I'm not even going to be able to do that. And they're probably right, because that even by itself was tough. So welcome everyone. And I'm going to bring in my very special guest tonight. Some of you guys may know him. And if you don't, definitely subscribe to his channel. I put the link in the description, so please go give him your support. But we have Mr. Kyle Katarn. Welcome to Mustaches on Mustafar.
Oh, thanks for having me. Happy to be here. That was so many sips. Did you just finish your coffee?
No, I only finished about that much, but man, that was rough.
Putting in the work. Hello there, everyone.
I'm gonna need a bigger mug. Yeah. So I guess to anyone that doesn't know you, kind of tell them about your channel and who you are, I guess.
I specialize in reactions and reviews of fan films, Star Wars fan films. That's how I got started. I try to bring the knowledge of a hardcore fan and kind of the energy of a casual. You know, we're all here to have fun. It's some positive Star Wars content. And then I have a Twitch channel as well, where I play a lot of Star Wars games live. It's twitch.tv/thegrizzledwizard.
Yeah, and I know one guy in our chat that he's been here There he is. Strike. He's also a big fan of yours as well, and he was excited when I
Hey, Strike, how you
put in
doing?
Discord that you were coming over. So, yeah, and I mean, no one's more excited than I am because I told you this behind the scenes, are one of the two channels that inspired me to start making Star Wars content. So,
Thank you, man.
thank you very much.
Thank you.
And I tell people that are looking to start their own channels, or if they have something to say, maybe they pop up in chats or even join some other people's live streams, but they don't have their own channel, just go ahead and do it, because the number of subscribers doesn't matter. You have something that you have to say about Star Wars. And even if you're talking about a subject that another channel's covered, you have your own unique perspective on that subject. So
Absolutely.
go for it. So, yeah, so we're going to get into some amazing Book of Boba Fett talk and theories and discussion. But first, I wanted to ask you a few questions. How did you become a Star Wars fan? Because I don't think I've heard that before.
How did I become a Star Wars fan? Man, it was so long ago. Like I was barely on the planet the first time I saw Star Wars. I think I was a year and a half old when my father took me to the theater to see Return of the Jedi in its original theatrical run. I was way too young to actually remember any of it.
But you were there. You can claim that.
But I
title.
was there. I can claim like the street cred. I was there. A few years later, I saw it on TV, and I started drawing pictures of stormtroopers and Darth Vader and lightsabers and X-wings. Pretty much immediately, I was into it. It was a way that I connected with my dad a lot too. I was kind of like we were the sci-fi nerds together. And then in '97, years later, when the re-releases happened, the special editions, and they came back to theaters, that kind of was like the final nail on the coffin. There was no getting out of this for me now. I'm fully in the Sarlacc pit of Star Wars fandom. For the next 1,000 years. I'll be consuming every piece of media.
Definitely. Green Lantern says, "Hail Kyle, I found you looking up a review of the Star Wars Hotel and first heard of you from Coffee on Korriban." Yeah. So.
Oh yeah, the Star Wars Hotel. Oh gosh.
we can talk about that a little bit later, I guess. That's oh boy. Didn't they was that just a rumor I heard that they pulled that promo?
They did. They pulled it down. Yeah. I thought it was maybe just like had been made private, but I had the original URL and was able to follow it. And yeah, the video had been removed by the uploader. So
that's
pretty
crazy.
conclusive. Hey, Legend, what's up, man?
There's a lot of names that I haven't seen before. So again, if this is your first time here, thank you very much for stopping by. I appreciate it. So yeah, so my story, my Star Wars story, just a quick rundown. When I was like 7, I think 6 or 7, my dad for my birthday was like, "Hey, we're watching a cool movie," and it was A New Hope.
Nice.
And then the next year for my birthday, we watched episode 5, then 6, and then 1, 2, and then for my 13th birthday, it was going to be the first PG-13 movie I was ever allowed to watch. We were going to watch Revenge of the Sith. But a week before, I was at a friend's sleepover, and they were watching Revenge of the Sith, so I watched it without my dad. I felt so guilty. I felt so guilty. And so I was a casual Star Wars fan for the longest time. And then maybe the last couple years, I think it was a theory video on Grievous and his backstory. And I was like, there's a whole bigger universe than I've ever seen before. Like I thought it was just the movies and the Clone Wars. And then it was Clone Wars season 7 when that came out. My wife and I watched that together, and that just really kind of blew the lid up over my intrigue into Star Wars. So that's kind of my Star Wars story.
The animated stories, man. There's so much to dive into there.
And I haven't seen them in the chat yet, but there's the Star Wars guys. We're going through the Clone Wars because I've never seen them completely. I've seen individual episodes. We are now in season 2, so we do Animation Fridays on his channel.
You're going release order or chronological order?
Release order.
Release order. Okay.
Yeah. I do want to go back and do chronological. Yeah. I do want to go back and watch in chronological order after. But I want to get just how it was released, how everyone else saw it, because I never went through.
I'm a big proponent of release order when introducing any element of Star Wars. If someone has never seen any Star Wars anything, I'll tell them watch things in the order released.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's the way that references are inserted. They're inserted for the fans who have seen things in that order. Someone actually asked me that just the other day. They said they never watched Rebels and they've watched the Clone Wars, and they wanted to know if I thought that they should just finish Clone Wars with season 7 and then watch Rebels in chronological order. And I said no, because there's a bunch of little Easter eggs and references in that that'll go over your head unless you've seen Rebels. So
right. And I did see Rebels.
Always the way to go.
I did see Rebels all the way through. And I loved it. I get people's criticism of it that don't really love it as much as they love Clone Wars. I get that. But I thought it was great. The boring episodes are pretty boring, but the good episodes are really good.
So, I get things out of the boring episodes too. You don't necessarily have to be like, the action doesn't have to be the only draw for a show like that. Like some of the slower episodes, for example, Wings of the Masters, when Hera gets the B-Wing for the first time. Like they could have told that story a lot quicker than they did. But just seeing all the cool vistas, seeing all of the McQuarrie concept art being brought to life, like that's really what I kind of get out of the animated style. Is like it's almost more visual than it is plot. So if an episode is filler, like there's still plenty to get out of it for me.
I felt the same way about The Bad Batch, and everyone was complaining, "Oh, this is a slower episode." But it's like, did you not see that? Like, did you miss this? And for me, the biggest thing about Star Wars in general, and everyone that watches my streams knows this, the world building.
Yes.
Like I want to feel that I'm there, that this is a real place. And so for me, I personally love the prequels more than the original trilogy because it's a bigger universe, because I get to see what's going on. I love the politics of it.
Sure.
And, the banking clan and the Confederacy of Independent Systems. I love those different aspects of the world. And one thing that people kind of overlooked when they were criticizing The Bad Batch after it finished in saying, "Oh, we didn't really get a whole lot." It's like, okay, we knew almost nothing about what the universe was going through after Order 66. We didn't know how the Empire came about. Everything with the chain codes and the ship registries and,
No, totally. They gave us a wealth of new context for an event that we knew took place, but we didn't know how it happened, and now we get to see that happening. And I personally, I find it absolutely fascinating. And like, you can watch it as like a historian, and it's filling in blanks on a timeline. Like that's really I don't know. I think it's folly to call anything filler before a series finale, because we don't know how it's all going to shake out, and we don't know what's going to become important down the line.
So here's
space whales.
Yeah. One thought that I have about The Bad Batch that I haven't really heard other people talking about. The final episode, the part 2 of the finale, was a disappointment for a lot of people. They thought it was just like escaping Camino and that was it. I think they should have released part 1 and 2 as one long finale.
I would agree with that.
Because going from the emotional low of the destruction of Camino immediately to their escape and then coming up on the surface and parting ways with Crosshair would have been an amazing payoff. We had that.
It almost feels like it was originally intended that way.
Right.
Like definitely and everything, want audiences to watch that escape while they're still reeling from this destruction that just happened. Yeah,
because then it puts you in their shoes. There's no time to mourn. You have to escape. You have to survive. And so anyway, that's a quick thought on that. We'll get into Book of Boba Fett.
I would agree with what you're saying there. I think that would have served them better. The cynical part of me wonders if they didn't stretch it for one more week before people would pull their Disney Plus subscriptions.
Yeah, which is a shame because it was what, the 16th episode? Was there 16 episodes?
Short season.
Compared to Clone Wars, definitely.
Compared to Rebels, we got like 20 something per season.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, so I guess let's get into Book of Boba Fett. I'll pull up my notes. I guess just what's your general Book of Boba Fett thoughts?
Well, and this is so my little secret for how I am able to find my way to enjoying all Star Wars content is to temper my expectations, just temper the hell out of them. And I'm finding it so difficult to do that for Book of Boba Fett. There's so many things that are making me really excited and hyped, like on a personal level. It sounds stupid even coming out of my mouth, but I was a fan of Boba Fett before it was cool, before he did anything cool to deserve being a fan of him. I read a couple Legends books and I was like, oh yeah, no, this guy's totally awesome. Totally cool. And so I feel like this show was made for 7-year-old me. Yeah. And it's hard not to get excited just for that aspect of it.
Well, Star Wars taps into the child inside of all of us.
Definitely.
And that's what I think people were kind of hurt by the most, is the child aspect of it. With the sequel trilogy was kind of damaged with, Luke, and we never got the shot of all of our heroes together, and those little things that were kind of nostalgic, but they didn't really capitalize on them. And I think their inner child was kind of hurt by that. And so that trust of wanting to get excited about a show isn't really there for most people. And for me, The Bad Batch helped a lot with that. But I completely agree with you. The more I see these trailers and the more I hear talk about it on different people's live streams and different videos and leaks and stuff, I'm getting so much more excited some way that I haven't felt since. I don't even know personally, because I wasn't super into Star Wars when the sequel trilogy was coming out, or the prequels, or even the sequels. But I'm definitely more excited than I expected to be at this point.
The originals were just like a cultural phenomenon. The prequels were popular, but they were still very much a niche category. Only really like the nerds were really passionate about Star Wars prequel movies. And the sequels, there's this push for it to be mainstream because you have the nostalgia. All the people that were children during the prequel era are now adults with kids of their own. And I will point, I just have to say for the record that I don't feel like my inner child was ever at stake watching the sequels. Because as much as I did enjoy the small nostalgia moments that we did get out of it, I never felt like the stories were necessarily for me. I feel like the stories were for the people that are the same age now that I was when I saw Star Wars for the first time. Like Rey doesn't have to be my best friend. That's for my kids to grow up with. You know what I mean? I can hang out with Obi-Wan and Anakin and Chewie and Leia, etc.
Yeah.
That's the way that I view it. I feel like if you lower the stakes for yourself, it's easier. It's an easier way to not be let down.
Right. Yeah, and that's what I was trying to do with Bad Batch. Is like, okay, I know I'm excited, but do they know what they're really doing? I trust them after Clone Wars Season 7, but you never know these days. And it completely lived up to my expectations personally. And I really hope Book of Boba Fett does as well.
I definitely enjoyed the Bad Batch as well. And ironically, I think I had the lowest expectations going in just because, I don't know, it was similar to the whole thing surrounding the Solo movie. It was like, this is cool. It's new Star Wars, but who exactly asked for this?
Yeah.
Like, people have been clamoring for a lot of different things. I remember at the time before Bad Batch was announced officially, a lot of people were anticipating it being an animated sequel to Rebels, continuing the narrative into the ground that's most likely going to get covered by the live action Ahsoka series later down the road. And so when people were kind of waiting with bated breath for this Rebels continuation announcement, and suddenly we're told, the Bad Batch, remember those guys from that one arc of season 7 of the Clone Wars? We're giving them a whole show. And admittedly, it was a cool show, and we got some really cool things about the rise of the Empire. But I've talked to a lot of Star Wars fans, and I don't recall a single conversation with someone who's like, man, I'd love a show about that Bad Batch group.
Yeah.
That was definitely Filoni decided he wanted to tell it rather than this is a story fans are asking for. And that's why my expectations were low, because I was like, well, I don't really know what I'm supposed to get out of this.
Right.
And then, like you said, we got all of that, I don't know, let's call it anthropological context of how the Empire rose to power. And it ended up being really gratifying and really cool to see. But
it's almost like
have high hopes.
It's almost like it satisfied questions that no one was asking, but in retrospect, they were important questions. Like,
totally.
What happens to a planet that was aligned with the CIS now that the Empire is in control? Like, we got that answer, but we didn't ask that question.
Exactly.
Before?
It's things that we didn't realize we didn't know.
Yeah.
They did answer some questions that have been around for a while. Lingering questions for me personally, like, where is Kamino? Why isn't Kamino playing a role in cloning and politics during the original trilogy era or afterwards? It's because they leveled it. And I thought that that was not only was it a convenient way to tie it up in a nice little bow so that it's not a narrative overshadowing the originals, but also it was a nice, like, a visual metaphor for the end of this era.
Yeah.
You know?
And I thought the empty mess hall and the cloning chambers and the hallways was like the gut punch of the episode, because we see that in Clone Wars. And again, I haven't seen all the way through Clone Wars, but I can imagine, especially people that grew up watching Clone Wars every week, like, that's your childhood that's being destroyed right in front of you. And I can only imagine how some people felt for that.
Other than maybe the skyline of Coruscant, I think the white hallways of Kamino might be one of the most iconic visuals of the prequels.
Mm-hmm.
Tatooine looks like Tatooine in all three trilogies, but like there's something very, very unique and also something very early 2000s just visually
Mm-hmm.
of the design of Camino. Like it's and that it's so iconic that I think it was the perfect choice to just destroy it to show that this is
Right.
done with. We're moving past this.
Well, it also kind of puts a cap on the prequel era as well, because we get introduced in episode 2 where you can almost like feel the rain on Obi-Wan as he comes inside. Welcome, we've been expecting you. Like that's for me, that's nostalgia because I grew up with the
Oh
prequels
yeah, for
mostly,
sure.
and it's kind of like the Bad Batch is an extension of the prequels, but now it's done. Don't be looking for any more because it's done. The timeline is over. So it was definitely a gut punch, but yeah. Man, this
You
is
could
turning
say one
into
of
a
the central
Bad
themes
Batch
of the whole
stream.
thing is loss. You know,
Yeah.
the loss of the war, the loss of the Republic,
Yeah.
and what we're gaining we didn't want. It's this empire.
Yeah.
And so yeah, it's a grim watch. You know, you don't get the joyous nostalgia. You get the more, hey, remember this? Well, it's dead now.
Yeah. Well, even the symbolism of victory and death with the Venator going down. That's it. That's the end of the Clone Wars. That's the end of the era. And
it's
I
just
love the
sobering
ending
to
of
think about the
yeah.
ending of the Clone Wars. I think about the finales of other Star Wars and other like big moments. They make me smile. No smiles to be had thinking about victory and
Mm-mm.
death. Yeah, it's just serious and sad,
Right.
and it's just like a farewell to the show.
Which is why that 5-hour cut of Revenge of the Sith is so
Oh
amazing
yes.
because it's all edited in together. And the final shot of that 5-hour cut is the clone helmet in the snow and Vader walking away. It's the same ending shot from Clone Wars. Let's catch up on some chats. Yeah, so much for talking about Boba. All right, we'll get into it. Enough Bad
Yes,
Batch.
Dr. Holocron is here to keep us honest.
Two Star Wars Nerd says, I likes the beginning and end of Bad Batch season 1. I really didn't like the in between. Just moved on and focused on what I do like.
Exactly. That's the attitude
Yeah.
to have.
And I'm a big fan of head canon is the best canon. And at this point, there's so much saturation. I wouldn't argue oversaturation, but there's definitely a plethora of Star Wars visual media now that fans can kind of pick and choose what they want. If
That's
you
what I was
don't
going to
like
say.
Rebels,
Exactly.
watch it once, and if you don't want to watch it again, then that's fine.
You can take things off your plate at this point and still have a full meal of
Yes.
Star Wars. Like you don't necessarily have like you. It's possible to oversaturate yourself, but maybe at this point you don't necessarily need to consume every little piece.
Right. Like I didn't really like Solo. I didn't hate it, but I probably won't watch it again. The sequels, I definitely won't.
I actually like Solo as a background movie because it's low stakes enough that
that's a good point.
I can just like have it playing in the background while I'm editing videos, for example.
Right.
Just like, and then I just sort of tune in for Darth Maul and then tune back out again.
Yeah, that's a good point, Strike.
Yes, canonized them and it was excellent. Maybe in the second season of Bad Batch, we'll finally get an answer to the questions like our missing compatriot from the Republic Commando game. Find out what happened to him.
Mm-hmm. All right, back to Book of Boba Fett because that's why everyone's here. We don't want to lose everyone. What are you personally looking for the most out of the Book of Boba Fett?
Besides just like satisfying action and a cool new development for Boba, give him a new direction. I don't want him to just end up a bounty hunter again by the end of this. I want it to actually give him a cool change and a new arc. But other than that, I think connections is what I'm most looking for and looking forward to. I want tie-ins with all of the recent comic runs that are going on. This Wednesday, Crimson Reign starts coming out, which is the OT set era story of Kira from Crimson Dawn, taking place after the War of the Bounty Hunters. Interestingly, the arc will conclude right before the 29th of December, which in history has told us usually they like to throw little Easter eggs in right before things happen like that, just like how Grogu's Force Heal was introduced just before the weekend where Rise of Skywalker came out. Like they like to tie in things like that. So I wonder if we're going to get Kira in the Book of Boba Fett, Emilia Clarke back from Solo, live action.
It's very possible, and I have a list of characters that I wanted to get your take on if you think they'll appear in Book of Boba Fett. I didn't have her on the list, but
I
consider her on the list.
I think she's the big one. If she's coming, she's
Okay.
coming in the finale. But I
Okay.
really think that they're leaning that way. There's some breadcrumbs, and they're all crimson colored. So
Don't need to consume every little piece, says the walking Star Wars encyclopedia.
exactly. Let me consume it for you, and then I'll tell you about it.
I did oversaturate myself with Star Wars and it sucked. Bummer. Hope you
if you've
recovered.
if you've read your Dune, I'm basically like a mentat. I chose this. There's no going back.
What from the EU would you like to see in the Book of Boba?
It would be cool if we got some expansion on Jabba's palace. Got to learn more about the Ba'omar monk temple that it originally was built for. They showed us a Ba'omar monk in the beginning of that trailer for the Book of Boba, which makes it a little bit more likely. They were a race of sentient beings that, in their process of attaining enlightenment, part of that was removing their brains from their bodies and putting them in like these canopic jars and attaching them to these spider walker bodies. Like that's how they could free themselves of earthly wants, etc. And then, of course, the Hutts just strong-armed him in because what are they going to do? Their brains in jars. And in Legends, after the death of Jabba, the monks slowly reclaimed the temple, and it became a temple once more. So it would be cool if they found a way to tie in these characters. They don't have to be a big part of the plot, but just including these little elements that were... Because Jabba's palace is actually a very, very well-detailed and mapped-out location in the books. A lot of stories take place there. A lot of rooms are described in there, and a lot of characters make their home there that we know about. So there's so many people that could come in and just like enrich the canon universe. Like they've done a really good job of picking and choosing things that would fit in really nicely, like bringing Thrawn in and Rebels and things like that.
Right.
The Book of Boba is just this rife opportunity. There's so many people that could add here.
I think aside from the sequels, because we're not gonna talk about that. That's a different stream. I think with the newer Star Wars shows, they've done a really good job about recanonizing a lot of things tastefully. At least that's been my perception. A lot of the stuff they've brought back into the official canon, they've done the
they do
correct
take
way.
liberties, but they do them tastefully, like you said. Like I think you can make a case for pretty much any of the changes that have been made to established characters that it services this new story a little bit better. Mandalore. I think we might see Mandalore in season 3 of Mandalorian.
Right. I would think so as well.
Flashbacks. Yes, that's on my wish list. I don't know necessarily if we're going to, but a de-aged Tem playing Django again.
Jaster Morrell.
Yeah. Oh. It's canon now. Open Seasons by Hayden Blackman with Jaster Morrell and Concord Dawn. It was canonized by that chain code, so we could see the flashbacks. That would be so cool.
Question for you. Some of the recent interviews seem to hint a possible romance between Boba and Fennec. I don't think it's necessary, but if they do it correctly, I wouldn't be offended.
I have never cared about relationships between characters that don't serve the plot. So if they do it, that's great, but that probably won't be... I don't know. It probably won't be a big reaction for me if they like kiss or anything. It's like, okay, well, that's cool. Can we shoot some more stormtroopers now? I have no strong feelings against it, but I don't know. I like to think that a man and a woman can have a cool partnership, and it doesn't have to always become romantic. It'd be cool to get some aromantic representation out here, you know?
Yeah, I'd be cool with that. I personally, what I'm looking out of the show is just, I want it to be like a story-driven, dark, gritty, not in like violence aspects, but in like gravity. I want it to be serious.
Sure.
I want it to take itself seriously, as opposed to just like, oh, battles and blasters and shooting and space.
Right, a little bit less jovial.
Right. And I think honestly that's what we've been getting in the teaser trailer so far, is less action. Come see our show because there's action, and more of like, you're not going to want to miss this because the story is going to drive it. That's personally what I'm looking to get out of it.
I mean, the director himself, one of the reasons I've had such a hard time controlling my hype is because Robert Rodriguez said, if anything, it over delivers.
Which is a very bold statement.
And that's to say that to Star Wars fans, it's a dangerous move. Like, I've been racking my brain, like, what does it mean?
Yeah. Yeah, Grand Admiral Gamer. I've been saying the same thing.
Exactly.
It's like I want this to be a mafia, and it's set up exactly how it's supposed to be. The Huts control the space. The Hut, you don't mess with the Huts. Everyone knows that. But now that Job is taken out, Bib Fortuna was kind of his proxy. He's taken out. Boba's going to unite all of the different factions of the crime underworld. I have that later in my notes to talk about, but that's really what I want is him to unite all of the different crime syndicates under one banner and take over the galaxy or something. I don't.
That's what I'm hoping, that like they're marketing it as this action dugout throwdown, Boba's back, baby. But what if they sneak in like Star Wars Sopranos now on Disney Plus? Like it's just a crime drama. And it's very like dialogue driven rather than necessarily action intensive. I wouldn't mind, because my favorite style of Star Wars is like the slice of life stories where we get to slow down and see what it's like to actually be in this location, because that's what really makes me immersed in the experience. You want to see live action Janata Teros in the Book of Boba Fett? I want to see that too. Are you kidding? Janata Teros is the name of my Twi'lek Jedi Knight character from the Old Republic. She is she's amazing and she can do no wrong. So yeah, definitely. If it's a Rodriguez joint, it's going to be action heavy for sure. His episode of Mandalorian, The Tragedy, I think gives us an inkling of what to expect.
And I'm okay with action heavy. I just don't want action driven.
Sure.
I don't, if you catch what I mean, I don't want it to be like,
I know what you mean.
Watch this big battle. Like, I don't really care. Like, cool. And I think the way they did in The Tragedy was tastefully done. It wasn't just a 20-30 minute long battle where Boba's just destroying everyone. We
didn't go to this planet to fight.
Right. It was a battle happened and he did what he had to do.
And he did it with so much style. Yes, please. We got some live action Trandoshans in Mandalorian season 1, and I haven't heard anyone talk about the fact that they were a little goofy looking in the face. So if Bosk shows up and actually gets some like close up face time, I'd be really interested to see how they would make that work and how good it could look. I love Bosk. He's a great character.
Yeah. But that's what I'm looking for the most, is just make it like realistic and story driven, as opposed to just action, watch our show because there's explosions kind of deal.
Totally. You want the action to service the story, not, have a story loosely based around reasons to fight a couple times.
Right.
Because it Masters of the Universe.
I put a poll on my community tab earlier today about what other people would like, my subscribers, what they would like to see most from Book of Boba Fett. Intense action sequences got 0% of the vote. So no one wanted to primarily see action sequences. 50% said a dark, gritty, and realistic storyline. 13% said Space Godfather. 13% said nostalgia. And then 25% said a connection to the larger Star Wars universe. So it definitely seems like the biggest portion of at least my subscribers said they want to see it connect into the larger Star Wars universe, and they want the story to be the primary driving force behind the movie as opposed to action.
I think I'd agree with both of those. I think that's probably how I would have voted too.
Yeah.
Story's absolutely important here. You can't just have a nostalgia fest fueled on, hey, remember this, remember that. Like, it's not enough to sustain the whole thing. And this is only a short run. I think it's 7 episodes?
Yeah, I think it was 7.
Not very long. So that tells me that a lot is going to be covered in a very short amount of time. It's going to be real difficult to edit these reactions, I think, for all the editors out there. It's going to be a lot of picking and choosing.
Yeah. Someone in, I think it was my last stream, said something about, do you think that the Hutts at this time still have any power in the galaxy, the remaining Hutts? So
there's a canon answer to that, and we get it from the War of the Bounty Hunters, which just finished coming out from Marvel Comics. The Crimson Dawn has stolen Han Solo's frozen body and is holding an auction to the highest bidder. The Hutt clans, specifically the Desjulik clan, which Jabba is a part of, goes to bid on Han's body. Fight breaks out. The Hutt Armada ends up attacking Vader's fleet to try and steal Han back after Vader strong arms the auction and steals him. And all of the Hutts are subsequently wiped out. And effectively, by the end of War of the Bounty Hunters, Jabba is the only member of the Hutt cartel left. So it's interesting because watching it as a kid, watching Return of the Jedi, you assume that Jabba is the Hutt,
Right.
and that he's the top of the whole criminal organization. It's not until you're watching the Clone Wars and they show you this council of Hutts that you realize that maybe he's just part of a larger organization.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that was true, and now it's back to the first one, because by the time of his death, Jabba was in fact the only Hutt left in the Desjalik clan. So there are no longer any Hutts. There are Hutts, obviously, off on Hutta, but not Hutts in a position of power taking over that space. So Hutt space is probably embroiled in some sort of a civil war, but that's not confirmed.
Well, that would be ripe for the picking for Boba to come in and take over.
Exactly.
And I didn't know about that War of the Bounty Hunters. I hadn't heard that explanation of what's happening with the Hutts. I theorized that even if there were Hutts, that I think the Hutts kind of ruled by name only. As
definitely.
opposed to,
they use their enforcers. They're not exactly able-bodied gentlemen.
Well, yeah, but beyond that, like it was kind of a like you don't mess with the Hutts kind of thing. Why? Because you don't mess with the Hutts. Like people just kind of feared the
They
Hutts
more rely on tradition, almost.
Exactly.
I
think
that.
with Boba or with Jabba gone and now Bib Fortuna gone, there's nothing left. Assuming what you told me is what they're gonna carry off of. There's nothing left of the Hutts, and it is just wild space at this point. There's no one really controlling everyone, and I think we could see Boba Fett unite all of those warring clans under one banner and have a force that would even rival the New Republic.
That would be really cool to see. And if he was going to do that, his number one contender would be Kira in Crimson Dawn, because that's literally what she's doing right now, and what I suspect we're going to spend all of Crimson Reign reading about her uniting those exact same. She's going to try and fill that same power vacuum. And so if Boba wants to become the criminal overlord, it's going to be him versus Kira by the end of this thing. That's kind of what I'm predicting. My other big prediction, well, this is a wish list thing. I don't know if it's going to happen, but I want Omega to show up in Book of Boba Fett and to meet and interact with Boba. She knows Fennec Shand. That's the end. That's like it's the setup is there. Are they going to go through with it, or will they save it for season 2?
And they might even have an explanation as to why Boba Fett saved Fennec in Mandalorian season 1. It could have been Omega was the connection.
I would love to know more about her robo guts. It really came out of nowhere. And they're kind of like, oh yeah, no, she got some cyborg stuff. Was she always cyborg? Did they add that? Like that's quite a procedure to be done next to some rocks in the middle of the Dune Sea. Was it Dr. Mandible, the big bug guy was he the guy that fixed her up? I wonder.
Is it Chaza?
Too early for live action Omega. I mean, it's been like a couple of years at this point from Bad Batch to now. Yeah, it's thinking of the timeline. It's interesting to note that Fennec Shand is much older than Boba. She's much older. Doesn't look it.
Right.
Boba got that.
Well,
that
it's
Sarlacc facial, and it didn't do good things for him.
Yeah, and it's Ming-Na Wen, so.
Well, sure, yeah, she's kind of exempt from the whole age thing.
Right. Are there 2 strikes here? He said other strike. I don't know. We can go over those characters.
Yeah, let's do it.
Just to kind of get your thoughts on that. What do you think the chances are of Ahsoka showing up?
Very low. Very low, but not impossible. The timeline matches up. It could happen, but I don't know what she would be doing there or why she would be interacting with these guys.
Right. What about Din Djarin or Grogu?
Chances are pretty high for Din Djarin. I don't think we're seeing Grogu until the emotional payoff that we've earned after seeing more Mando. We're going to see it. We're going to see Grogu again through Din's eyes next time we see him, and it'll be the reunion. It's going to be very emotional now that we're all in love with a puppet.
Yeah.
But I think Din Djarin, yeah, that's a natural choice, considering that the Book of Boba Fett was announced as a stinger after the Mandalorian finale. These two shows definitely already have a close relationship just from that. So he'll be there, I think.
What about Luke?
I think not. I think we're not seeing Luke until we see Grogu.
Okay. You don't think any Luke coming or Boba discovering Luke?
I don't.
Any kind of a confrontation like that?
Well, interestingly, if Boba does discover Luke, I don't think he would even have a confrontation with him because I think that we're going to learn that Boba has sex as a self-actualized quite a lot while he was sitting in the belly of that Sarlacc, and that his priorities are very different now.
He seems like a different Boba.
I don't think that he would act and just outwardly be antagonistic just because of the past to Luke.
Mm-hmm.
He would at the
Yeah,
very least have a conversation with him, you know?
Cad Bane.
Oh, I hope so. I hope so. I want live action Cad Bane so bad.
Yeah.
I want to see that hat.
And like I said earlier, we're on the Star Wars Guys channel. We're watching through the Clone Wars, my first time going all the way through, and we're in the second season right now. So I'm getting to see like actual Cad Bane as opposed to just what I saw in the Bad Batch and
right the fan service Cad Bane of the Bad Batch,
right?
Which I will say, chances are pretty good for Fennec Shand and Cad Bane to have their rematch in the Book of Boba Fett, because if you remember how they left things, she lost him a lot of credits.
Right.
And a guy like Cad Bane's not going to let that lie. So they've already got a really good setup for him to show up looking for Fennec Shand. And then maybe we'll get that round 2, but it'll be in live action. That would be so cool.
Right. Omega, you kind of already touched on.
Yeah, Omega, I think there's a narrative hook there. Same with Cad Bane, really. The Alpha and the Omega have to meet each other. It has to happen.
Mm-hmm.
It might be too early, like Chaza was saying, but we'll see. The show might go for many seasons. Who knows?
Yeah. Mace Windu, last one.
Not unless Star Wars Zombies is coming soon to Disney Plus. I hate to break the bad news, but that sucker is dead.
X-Wing, if you're watching, sorry.
Sorry.
He's our resident. Let's see Mace Windu again.
If we see Mace Windu again, I would love it. I don't see it happening, but who knows? Like if you told me that Baby Yoda would be a character someday, I would have been like, no, why would they do that?
Right.
It wouldn't have made sense to me. So like, we can't see the future. Could happen. Mace Windu went out the window and he didn't have a hand to grab anything on. Yeah. Falls notoriously don't kill people in Star Wars. So yes, Dr. Holocron's got an excellent point. Flashbacks are totally a way to bring people back. Yeah. But I don't think we're going to see him past the point of Order 66 in the timeline.
Right. I will say, if we do see Mace, I really hope he is disillusioned with the light side of the Force. Not fully committed to the dark side, but I want to see him scorned. I want him to be kind of like, I thought I wanted to be the chosen one. I trusted in the light side of the Force, and this other chosen one destroyed it all. The entire Jedi Order was a farce. I want him to be really resentful and really lean into the darker side of the Force.
I think that is pretty on the nose what his character would do, having experienced those events. I've said it before, actually. I think that if Mace Windu survived Order 66, he would straight up turn to the dark side. He is a user of the Vapod lightsaber style. Right. He's always been someone that towed the line, had a foot in both worlds. I don't think that he would be able to wrap his mind around the absolute failure and betrayal that the Jedi Order suffered without it breaking his psyche, without him falling to the dark side. Just because, if anything, he was very, very powerful. He was also extremely arrogant. Yes. And when an extremely arrogant person suddenly sees the truth, it can be a very humbling and very uncomfortable feeling. And I feel like Mace wouldn't be able to handle it. And if Mace Windu returns, he's not going to be a good guy. If he returns, we're going to have to defeat him. Like, that's what the situation's going to be. It's going to be like a Tyron Malicos kind of thing.
And Dr. Holocron says, though, a fight between Tamara Morrison and Samuel Jackson would be sick. That's kind of why people are pushing for that and hoping that
I would love for Boba to get that justice. I would love to see that as a fan of Boba. And I'm sure that the fight choreography would be absolutely stellar.
Yes.
What if they bring him back and he's got like robot legs?
He's got horns all super grown out.
We found Mace Windu in a cave with some robot legs.
Yeah, I would want to see that though, because a a Jedi who has fully opened himself up to the dark side as well. So he's way stronger than your normal Jedi,
Right.
and a
A Jedi Council
Mandalorian at
member
his full
from like at
strength.
the heyday.
Yes.
One of
Yeah.
the most powerful Jedi to possibly
Yeah.
fall.
And
Yeah.
versus Boba, a peak Mandalorian with tons of tricks up his sleeve, like that would be a pretty sick fight. I don't think we're gonna get it though, but maybe.
No, when you even having it play out in my imagination, it feels a little fan servicey.
Yeah.
They would have to find like a really really good hook to bring him back. Like
Right. There a
what
reason.
would they
That's
come
kind of
up
what we were
with?
talking about earlier. It's the story has to call for it. It could work. I'm not saying it wouldn't. And fan
We
service
could
isn't necessarily bad.
what about a droid like Proxy from The Force Unleashed? What if Boba has a droid like Proxy and he can like train against a Jedi and his Jedi training program is a hologram like Mace Windu that he has to kill every day
Dude.
to keep his skills sharp?
Like he's been training for his fight with Mace every day for the that
Totally,
would be pretty sick
just to
though.
keep him sharp up here.
Yeah.
That'd be great.
That would be a pretty sick twist. Or even, maybe not even Mace Windu, but just like a droid and him
Because
fighting
then
against
it wouldn't even need to be a whole emotional beat. It could be like the camera pans across the
Mhm.
courtyard one day as he's just like going to town on this thing, and we just know
Yeah.
that this is part of his daily routine.
And it could be anyone, any other bounty hunters he's crossed along the way, even people we don't know of so far. But that is a pretty cool idea.
Live action Dengar. My fan cast would be Jonathan Banks from Better Call Saul and Breaking Bad. Plays Mike Ehrmantraut. He would be my Dengar. I don't know if he can do a Cockney accent, but he's got the face for it. I would never tell him to his face that he has the face for Dengar, but he does.
Mace's story ended properly with the Revenge of the Sith. I agree. It was the one guy that held him back, Anakin got revenge on.
There's nothing
poetic.
wrong with the way his story ends.
Right.
If they wanted to continue it, now they got to come up with an even better conclusion.
We've got
Now
the
the pressure's
legendary
on.
Tron. He fights
Know that.
for the users. Welcome, Tron. Okay, so we got strike 721 and strike 722.
I think strike 722 is winning because he's got one more point, right?
That's true. Yes, he is winning.
So
That's why he
GG.
says that's why he says good point. If he wasn't Krennic Ben, is it Mendelsohn?
Yeah, he does have a good voice for Dengar. I like how Simon Pegg voices him in the Clone Wars. I think he does a good job, and I love that they brought Simon Pegg back when Dengar was included as a DLC hero for Battlefront 2015 during the Bespin expansion. You're gonna take a dirt nap. I just run around spamming that emote.
So 723. He got another point. That's awesome. Let's see. What else
You
can we
guys are
talk
like
about?
playing a game of pickup basketball in the comments.
Yeah, I don't even know. Well, they're almost at 1,000 points. That's pretty impressive.
It's a long horse.
I think if one thing that Rogue One and Mandalorian has proven is that we don't need to see lightsabers. We don't need to see force powers and space wizards and lightning fists, and we don't need that stuff to have a really good story.
That
And
Mandalorian was doing so well. I was so proud of it for being the first show to just consistently not have lightsabers because it made it through. If you don't count the dark saber, we made it through the entire first season without seeing one. Rogue One, we almost got there, and then we had the Vader hallway sequence, which ironically, one of the best things in the whole movie.
Right.
But you could argue that without it, the movie would still be really good.
Right.
I think you're right. Like it's refreshing to have a non-force centric story for once.
Right. I think as far as the Vader hallway scene, I think it was necessary because we see the story from a regular person's perspective, and when Vader comes on the scene, you get put into perspective just how powerful a force user is.
Yes, exactly.
Like we haven't seen that before. Even in like Revenge of the Sith and Attack of the Clones, we see the Jedi fighting alongside the clones. In the Clone Wars, we see that too. And we know the Jedi are more powerful, but you get to see that complete helplessness from
right.
The
we never
rebels.
get to see Vader at the height of his actual skill and
Right.
potential. By the time we see him, 19 years have passed, and he's more machine than man, etc.
Right.
Which perhaps we'll get some added context to that in Kenobi, but that's for another discussion as well.
Right.
I don't think we'll be getting any references to other Disney Plus shows in Book of Boba in that way, except for The Mandalorian. I think we will see Din
I
Djarin, but yeah.
hope not. I hope not. I hope it's its own thing. The implications are there for the larger universe. Again, like if he builds up his empire that is big enough to rival Kira's and rival the New Republic. And who knows, maybe that's why the New Republic never achieves its full strength and allows the First Order to come back. We don't know. That's a possibility. But I just, yeah, I don't know.
Here's a theory for you. Luke shows up at Jabba's palace, gets dropped down into the Rancor pit. He kills the Rancor. This Rancor's name is Patissa. This is a male Rancor.
Right.
The Rancor trainer is Malakili. What if Boba Fett shows up, takes over the palace, finds there's another Rancor in the menagerie? It's Moochie from the Bad Batch. He's having a real hard time. Moochie's not being controllable. In walks Omega. Omega knows Moochie, able to calm him down. Now Boba has a Rancor that he can, like, who knows, ride into battle or something. Like, there's all these little elements, these little breadcrumbs that have to rest somewhere. And I feel like Book of Boba would be a great place for that kind of a tie-in.
Well, and that goes back to what you were saying earlier about some of those episodes of the Bad Batch that you might have thought were filler. They could have stuff that could come into play in serious ways later down the line.
Exactly.
That could be really cool.
Don't rush to call something filler unless you know how it all shakes out. And it might even not even shake out in this show. It might be a different show references it in a meaningful way, you know?
Right. Yeah, I completely agree. I am all the strikes. Avella says 200,000 strikes already, with 1 million more well on the way.
Magnificent, aren't they?
I love the meme of 200,000 already with 1 million more on the way. Well, magnificent are they? And it's like a pot of tamales. Yeah, just multiplying. Someone make a strike 1,000 and just beat them.
Yeah, let's get these strikes over 9,000.
I feel like we're gonna go to Geonosis and Book of Boba.
That would be pretty emotional to go back to Boba's state of mind at the time that he loses his father. In the Jango Fett comic, you learn that he has a very close-knit relationship with his father beyond what we see in the movie. He really is like very loving to his son. He treats him as a son. Like there's no acknowledgement in their relationship that he's a clone of any kind. Like he just raises him as. And then in the Boba Fett young adult novel that came out, it starts off with the scene of him retrieving Jango's body from the Petronaki arena and burying it, like not far away. His Jango's bones are in canon on Geonosis. That's where he's buried. And there is a little bit of confusion as to whether or not he's wearing Jango's armor, because in Legends, he was wearing the armor of Jaster Muriel. Then Jango Fett is invented, kind of fills that role, becomes like a middle step between those two people. We know that he sacrifices Jango's helmet in an assassination attempt against Mace Windu during the Clone Wars. He blows it up in the Venator attack. My theory, my headcanon is just that he had multiple suits on Slave One, the same way he had multiple jetpacks on Slave One. I did notice in the trailer that he's rocking the all-green Empire Strikes Back jetpack in the Book of Boba Fett trailers, not his Return to the Jedi multicolored one, which makes me wonder if we're going to see him get out of the Sarlacc the same way he did in Legends by overloading his jetpack and causing the Rancor to kind of retch him out. I really hope that's what goes down, but I'm sure we'll see something.
We got Strike 719. We're going backwards. I hope we get to see Rey.
If you mean Ray Park as in Darth Maul, then I hope so too. But
yes.
Maybe in a hologram form.
What if the Book of Boba Fett is an actual book filled with all the people Boba still needs to kill? I don't get that vibe from him in these trailers. If he has a hit list.
I could see it being more of like a romantic comedy context. These are all the names of people he's been in relationships with that he has to call and like make amends or something.
The strikes are taking over.
This is a hostile takeover. This now belongs to Strike.
Yeah, click clack.
Click clack, yes, from Rebels, from Ghosts of Geonosis. I was so excited for Ghosts of Geonosis, getting to see animated Saw Gerrera.
Mm-hmm.
Rogue One style Saw Gerrera, importantly. Yeah, see,
I'd like
same
to
thing.
see
The Ghost
some.
of Geonosis is coming out right before Rogue One, and we got that context about the Death Star weapons and what Saw Gerrera had been up to.
Mm,
Things like that keep happening, which is why I feel like Crimson Reign concluding right before Book of Boba Fett starts coming out makes me think that we're getting that Crimson Dawn tie-in.
right.
The soldiers with the red hollow shields, they were all wearing like kind of like a red leather kind of a getup. They could be Crimson Dawn fighters. They also kind of look like the mining guild from Cobb Vanth's story, though, which we know as a crime organization also active on Tatooine. So they could have been the mining guild. I think that might be
Right.
Crimson Dawn, though.
What do you think about? We could talk about marketing for Book of Boba Fett, as far as like what
Mm.
trailers, what teasers, kind of the whole. How is Disney approaching this? What are your generic thoughts on
I
how they're
mean,
marketing it?
I'm at this point, I'm relieved we're getting anything because after Disney Plus Day and Fandom, they kind of like it seemed like they forgot they had Star Wars in their control for a while there. Like Disney Plus Day, we got a whole slew of Marvel announcements,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't think we got a single thing about Disney, about Star Wars. And then like a week later, they canceled Rogue Squadron. So it was like, wait, what's going on here exactly? So I'm just really happy that we're getting any kind of a rollout at all. They didn't really promote anything to do with Star Wars for a very long time, long enough to make me nervous. I mean, obviously they wanted to focus on the Marvel properties that are currently coming out. Like they were really pushing Hawkeye a lot, and they still are, but we're finally starting to see it. It's also worth noting that this is a non-Star Wars film year. Usually we get a film dropping in the holiday season. And so that marketing is absent, and I think we feel that absence. Like
Mm-hmm.
by this point, we would have at least 2 massive official trailers for a movie that's about to be dropping, and probably a whole bunch of TV spots and things. And we're just now starting to get that same kind of a rollout for Book of Boba.
Right.
Um,
Someone had mentioned earlier, like last week or something, that all of the stuff we've seen so far in the trailer and the 2 teasers looks like it takes place in the very first episode. So we're not
yes.
getting story for the rest of the season at this point.
Oh,
I
they're
personally
holding
like
it. They're
that.
holding it back.
Yeah.
Their cards are tightly to their chest, and that's
Mhm.
why I feel like it's a big deal reveal. Between Rodriguez saying it over delivers, between all these people with these teases saying you don't want to miss this, to all the presumptive clues that they're dropping in the comics with War of the Bounty Hunters and Crimson Reign and everything like that, it has the potential to be huge.
Disney minus
Disney
day.
minus day.
You think we'll see any porgs?
I wonder if porgs live outside of Ochto. They might. Kanji Club. It could be Kanji Club. Tazu Leech was part of the War of the Bounty Hunters. You know, he's now in the same crew as Zuckuss. So if Zuckuss shows up, Tazu Leech could be with him, and we could see how he joins, like how he founds Kanji Club. That'd be kind of interesting, actually.
There was a new Star Wars Hunters gameplay trailer.
I saw that. I saw it got posted on Twitter. I haven't watched it yet. I'll drop a reaction to it tomorrow.
Nice.
Thanks for letting me know.
And again, for anyone here that doesn't know Kyle Katarn and hasn't subscribed to his channel, he does reactions, and I believe you have your personal mission of going through every fan-made Star Wars project ever.
That's right.
Right?
I'm trying to react to every Star Wars fan film ever made. I have a Star Wars community Discord server with a reaction request channel, and I'm working my way through them. Yeah, there's a couple different ways you can throw me reaction requests. You can leave me a comment on YouTube. You can find me on Twitter, Instagram, Discord. I've reacted to over 150 Star Wars fan films at this point, and I'm not even close to halfway. There's so many out there. It's such an awesome celebration of people's love for this franchise and for the fandom itself. And I'll never get tired of it. You know, it's so much fun. It's infectious. But yeah, if you have a Star Wars fan film or you're working on a Star Wars fan film and you want me to react to it, I will. You just need to send me the link.
Oh my gosh, we're up to 724. Green Lantern, I guess you can do something about the Green Lantern, one of my mods. If you'd like. I don't even know how there are so many strikes there.
Kyle flees like a coward. Oh, I guess we got Desan up in the chat. Actually gonna tell me kidnap Jan. Desan, that dinosaur jerk.
I guess as as far as like the marketing, do you think we're getting too much or too little trailers?
Well, as you said, we're getting a whole lot of a small amount of content. We've gotten like 4
Mhm.
TV spots now and 2 trailers and a teaser, but it's all covering that first episode or 2 or
Yeah,
so we think.
maybe the second. Yeah.
So yeah, I think that I think that it's the appropriate amount of early looks. We don't want to see too much. Yeah, don't recommend anything with it. Well, you can still recommend it. That's because if it shows up on the Discord, I got people like you modding for me, weeding through the spoilers, which I
Mhm.
really do appreciate. That won't be the case for too much longer because I'm going to be diving into KOTOR 2 like next week, I think. So,
Nice. I still haven't played KOTOR 2.
Dr. Holocron, that's what I'm saying. Those red shirt guys in the trailer, they could either be Crimson Dawn or they could be part of the mining guild. If you'll remember, they came in and strong-armed Cobb Vanth and everyone in Mos Pelgo. They looked similar to them too.
Mhm. What else you got for Book of Boba Fett? Any other theories or anything else?
Mostly I'm just like really excited for it. In terms of theories, like the only other person that I can think of that they could bring in would be Bylert Valance, which would be really cool. My man Valance, one of the coolest bounty hunters. He's a 1977 original. He's from the OG Marvel Comics.
Mm.
He's been canonized, brought back in. He actually was canonized. I think it was Han Solo Imperial Cadet, which came out around the same time as Solo, talking about Han Solo as an Imperial Cadet. And a member of his flight group was Bylert Valance. And he's kind of like a Terminator type story where he is badly mangled in a TIE crash and the Empire discards him, but they rebuild him as a cyborg. And now he's just like this finely honed killer and works as a bounty hunter. Well, I would love to see him show up in the Book of Boba Fett or just in any sort of live action media. He's very much central to the War of the Bounty Hunters. And it's probably going to have a lot to do with both Darth Vader moving forward and Crimson Reign probably too. So Red Key Raiders, not the Mining Guild. Thank you very much. But it could be Crimson Dawn still. The Mining Guild that I was talking about from Cobb Vanth is called the Red Key Raiders. But yeah, no, I think that Valance could show up here, and my fan cast would be someone like Henry Cavill, maybe Christian Bale, and then just give him the Terminator, like the metal face. Michael Shannon, that's actually really good too. Michael Shannon would be good for Valance, but the actor doesn't matter so much as the fact that he needs to be wearing a baby blue leather jumpsuit. Non-negotiable. Has to happen. Yeah, Embo. Embo could be cool too. He could show up with Cad Bane. They could be the Big Hat Guild.
There's still so many people that like I've heard the names, but I don't know their backstory. Like there's so many stories that I still have to go through.
Embo, fun fact about Embo, he's voiced by Dave Filoni.
Yes, yeah, I can't put a face to the name.
If you're only in season 2 of Clone Wars, you wouldn't have met him yet, but he's got a great big metal hat that he can throw, kind of like what's his face from Mortal Kombat. I'm blanking on his name now. Oh no,
I don't know. Or Odd Job from
the other guy. Anyway, Embo would be a good addition, I think.
Jodocast.
Oh yes, that would be a cool. They could just have a whole episode, just do that story real quick. Jodocast from Twin Engines of Destruction, the Dark Horse comic. Boba gets a message from Dengar that there's someone taking bounties in the Outer Rim dressed in Mandalorian armor claiming to be Boba Fett.
Mm-hmm.
Turns out this punk kid called Jodocast. But it's awesome. It's like a Boba versus evil Boba fight is basically what the issue is all about. But yeah, that would be really cool if they brought that back in for an episode.
Speaking of evil versions of, have you heard the theory that Luke with 2 U's is the Luke we see in the sequel trilogy?
I have heard that. I've also heard that Snoke is in fact Snook with 2 U's because he was grown from Luke's disembodied hand, which was reclaimed from Bespin, and we see it and floating in a jar on Exegol in Darth Vader issue number 11, which came out earlier this year. And the strong implication was that it was the DNA was used thusly to create the guys in the tanks. I'm not a scientist. All right. But yeah, no, if it is in fact Luke, Like, that would be pretty crazy. Why would a clone of Luke also voluntarily cut himself off from the Force, I wonder? It's one of those theories that creates a lot more questions, you know?
I don't know. And I was going to bring this up earlier. My theory, this is actually the first Star Wars video I posted. This is like, I don't know, a year ago. I just had a crazy theory to kind of make Luke's absence and the reason he's on his island planet and being a hermit and everything a little more bearable for us people that really don't like that idea. And it would be Mara Jade. So obviously we all knew who Mara Jade is, but let's say in the timeline of the sequel trilogy and what we actually have in canon now, Luke and Mara Jade are together. She's pregnant with Luke's son. And the Emperor, who we now know is still alive and in the far reaches of the galaxy, starts playing in his mind these visions of Mara Jade dying, just the same way he did with Anakin and Padme.
Right.
So he's playing on these visions, and at first Luke is like, no, I know this is the work of the dark side. I can't fall into this. But they keep plaguing him so much so that he kind of loses his grasp on what's real and what are these visions and what is a normal dream and what is real life and all these things. And he keeps seeing her die. And then when he sees that little hint of the dark side and that little bit of rebellion in Ben Solo, it kind of catches him off guard. And finally, when he sees something that makes him completely think that, okay, Ben Solo is the one that's going to kill Mara Jade. I know it. He acts out just like he did with his lightsaber. Ben Solo goes overboard and destroys the new Jedi Temple, and accidentally in the process, Mara Jade is killed. So Luke blames himself for turning to the dark side.
Ah, the accidental.
Because of that.
Okay.
And he blames himself for the death of his wife and his child.
That would be a very emotionally powerful reason for him to isolate himself, for sure.
A little bit more viable of an answer than I saw the dark side in him, and so I had to kill him in his sleep. Because if Luke
I think that you have to understand what it's like to. I think that Luke in that moment, I don't think that he voluntarily turned on the saber. I think that his PTSD from the last 30 years of his life turned on that saber. Like, you can't sit there and analyze his action without understanding like the deep loss that everything the dark side represents for him as a person, you know?
Right.
And then what does he say? What happens immediately after that? He feels shame and regret and pain. At no point does he attack Ben. At no point does he try to attack Ben. He turns on his saber and then he turns it off again. And the rest is decided for him by this scared child in front of him, who is very rightfully scared, by the way.
Of course.
You wake up to a dude with a lightsaber over you, like, no thank you.
Yeah.
Can't really blame him for freaking out either. But I've always empathized with Luke's decision there a little bit more. It's definitely can be seen as unsatisfying if you have certain expectations for what you wanted that character to do. Like, it can be, you know, very disheartening to see him be taking in such a different direction. It's a very specifically different direction to what a lot of people wanted Grandmaster Luke of the EU, who stood there and faced down the Yuuzhan Vong and did everything single-handedly and was this mythical guy, you know? And I think, I don't know, not to get too deep into The Last Jedi, because that's a whole own discussion, but I think that was kind of the whole point. What he was going for was didn't want to give you something that you've already seen in your mind 1,000 times, because that's kind of a less of a fresh experience, you know? I can understand that thinking, I think, what he was going for in that way.
And even the way that you just explained it right now kind of made me realize, like, okay, there's a different way to look at this than completely hating, because I know a lot of people when it comes to the sequel trilogy kind of feel
it's kind of sad that we have to tear it down. That's the thing about movies. I'm always like, really? We built this amazing thing and now we have to tear it down.
I'm sorry, sir. It's time for you to leave.
I don't get it. Can you explain that?
It's just like a lot of people blame Kathleen Kennedy for
but in that clip, what's she saying? What is she talking about tearing down?
She's talking about a set. Like a
she's talking about tearing down a set. So why does I just don't get so the clip's being taken out of context so you can make fun of her? Is that what's going on?
Yeah.
Oh.
That was the joke.
Oh, okay. That's interesting.
Yeah. Some people feel that way. I don't personally care about Kathleen Kennedy or the whole rumors of she's out or whatever. But but some people feel that way. But even what you were just saying about having Luke and empathizing with him a little bit more is something that I kind of didn't really open myself up to. I kind of just didn't, from The Force Awakens, from the very first moment, I didn't care for it. And so I kind of hardened my own heart to the rest of the sequel trilogy. And Matt Cave, I know he was in here a little bit earlier. Me and him and a couple other guys are actually going to go through the sequel trilogy again, because I've only watched through it once, trying to look for the stuff that we can appreciate about it. I know a couple of things that I'm already going to pick out as positives, trying to give it a second chance.
I mean, you don't necessarily have to work hard to like. You shouldn't feel like you have to correct a gut reaction, because it's absolutely valid the way that you feel.
Right.
You know, your thoughts and opinions are absolutely valid, and they always are your own. I don't think that it's necessarily something that like you're right or you're wrong about it. It's such a subjective thing.
Well, that's why headcanon is the best canon.
Hey, that's exactly right. Absolutely so.
Yep. Oh, we got Daryl as well.
Hello there. It's a fine looking bucket you got there.
Yeah, I think he's making some West Stars too. I think.
Oh, nice. Hey, just got these based actually. Some West Stars of my own.
Oh, those are cool.
They're not all the way in there. I'm not realizing. Oh, no, I just shot a hole in the wall. Sorry about that.
I had like a couple weeks ago a Star Wars collector, and I was blown away by some of the pieces that he showed on the
I've
the
seen
stream.
a few of his videos. Yeah, his collection is absolutely insane. Huge.
And like he had like the legit West Stars, and he was all talking about like, oh, the one like it has the little trigger guard on the one side because they needed him to do the sling, but the other side doesn't have it. So I wish I had money to spend on on things. But
The trick is
I gotta
to
buy
get
diapers.
The trick is to get people to send you stuff for free so you will review it. And it's just like,
Yeah.
just send messages to every company. Be like, hey, send me this and I'll make a video about it. And sometimes they're like, sure, okay. Never hurts to try.
Yeah.
I'm really, really trying to get that relationship going with Hasbro so they can start just like sending me helmets. So helmets won't put me in
That
the
would be so
poorhouse.
nice. Yeah. That's what you were saying the other day is like, don't get into buckets because you can't get out.
It's a slippery slope. You think you're just buying the buckets, suddenly you're buying shelves, you know, buying stands. It becomes a whole thing.
Lights, accent lighting.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. What's your favorite collectible?
You know, you're going to regret asking me that, and I'll show you why.
Like to review $1 million.
Mr. Contractor, it's a time for little burger.
Aren't you glad you asked?
That's awesome. Oh, there's the dude. X-Wing.
Oh,
Welcome,
man.
X-Wing.
Yeah, the thing is, it's vintage, by the way.
That's awesome. I have found that as far as like collectibles and like not even valuable stuff, just like stuff that I find for sale that I want to buy, it's
Nostalgia
usually the episode 1 stuff for me
They
that
had the
gets
best
me the
stuff,
most
I
hyped.
think.
Yeah. Like
Episode one,
there was a good.
I was just gonna say, episode 1, they had such a big push for the marketing. Special edition, they kind of tested the waters and found that everyone was into it. So they were like, let's just go ham and make Hasbro toys of everything.
Yeah. So this video is not for children.
I don't know. I didn't think Jar Jar's dance moves were that explicit.
No.
Maybe
That is pretty
I'm
awesome,
just
though.
desensitized because I've seen it a few times.
What is the dollar value on that thing?
If I had not removed it from its packaging, I could probably sell it for like $150. It's not
That's
that
not
much.
that's not too bad.
Out of
That's not
box,
too
I don't know. It probably eBay's for like 40-50 bucks.
Yeah, that's not bad. I expected like $400 or something.
Oh, no. I only have like one or two things that are even hundreds of dollars in here. Like, it all looks fancy, but it's not that much. Like, the helmets are probably the most expensive thing to collect out there, unless you're into like
Yeah.
the 1/1 scale replicas, or like, if you collect armor suits. I know a guy that collects armor suits, and it's absolutely ridiculous. He's got like 7 mannequins in his living room, and each one has a different like trooper. He's got a TK, he's got a clone guy. It's
Mhm.
ridiculous.
Do you wake up to that every day?
Oh my god, right? No, I do have the Roger sound files from Battlefront as my phone tones for like texts and emails and stuff.
Mhm. Although
Well, I
lightsabers
wake up to one of those. A Roger.
lightsabers are expensive as well.
Oh
Like,
yeah.
the legit ones. I don't have any lightsabers yet.
I don't either. That's like the one thing I don't have any of. I have a dark saber, but that's about it. The Scout is a deluxe costume piece from Ruby's. I don't know if I would recommend it to you unless you want to display it. For display, it looks great. If you have a beard, you cannot wear that thing. I've tried. It's it also like it has a bunch of like really sharp plastic around the edges, so it leaves like a red mark on my face every time I wear it. It's yeah, it's an experience. But it's made by Ruby's.
We're getting Kenobi in, what is it, May?
That sounds right. Well, no, it's got to be after May, because May is Celebration, and that's when we're getting presumably the teaser.
Okay.
I'm not
So
sure.
we'll
I think it'll
assume
be after May.
We'll assume summer, I guess. I can't remember. What are your thoughts on Kenobi?
I can't wait. I absolutely can't wait. It's only recently sinking into me that we're really getting more canon Ewan McGregor as Obi-Wan Kenobi on screen. That's happening.
And Hayden.
And that fact that Hayden is already confirmed.
Yeah.
I keep going back and forth on whether I wanted that to be confirmed or not. Like, can you imagine the reaction videos if that was like an actual surprise? Like, holy moly. If people were expecting to just watch like episode 3 of Kenobi and then Hayden Christensen shows up, like, it'll be a cultural event, almost on the scale of like seeing those Force Awakens trailers when no one had seen anything from Disney Star Wars yet, and it was like the first thing we saw, and we hear Luke's voice. Like, we were talking about that a little bit before the stream began. Like, I don't think that level of hype is ever going to be reached again,
right?
For Star Wars, or maybe even any other film series. It takes literally 30 years to build up that kind of an expectation.
Yeah, there's no product you can make that would generate that much hype that quickly. It has to be something that builds up over time.
Exactly. And now, because of the way it was handled and the way it was received, and like the rocky reception that Star Wars has gotten in this, like the contemporary movies, that little like that wariness is going to be in the back of everyone's mind for all these other franchises out there that have nothing to do with Star Wars, that are going to try and do the whole hype, the revamp, we're back, nostalgia. Everyone's gonna be like, I was burned before.
Yeah.
They're not going to be on board. So that's why I don't think it's an experience that if you missed it, I don't know if it's going to come around again. Maybe not for another 30 years, because I'm sure that there are people that feel the way you feel about the sequels, that felt that way about the prequels in the 90s. And who knows? True. Who knows if they were brought back to the table with that Force Awakens trailer, or if they were like, nah, not again.
That's actually a good point. Something I don't give a lot of thought to.
Since I'm not one of those people, I don't know what that thought process was.
Right.
But like, you will know 30 years from now when episode 10 drops, like whether it interests you or not. Like, it'll be a very interesting question, because people have been falling on both sides of this thing.
Yeah, that's a good point. X-Wing wants to know where you got the Phase 1.
Oh, the Phase 1 was actually a random eBay score. I think my theory, this is a headcanon because I don't know what actually happened. It was listed for $75 US on eBay, which is insane. First of all, clone helmets are really hard to find. When it comes to Star Wars collecting, unless you're getting a 3D printed one, clone helmets, hard to find them for less than about $200 to $300. It was $75 on eBay. I think that someone got in trouble with their mom, and their mom sold their Star Wars collection. That's my working theory. And mom didn't know what anything was worth and just like listed a bunch of stuff. Yeah, X-Wing, you know what I'm talking about. You know what helmet prices are like. That was $75 USD right there.
That's crazy.
And it's very bare bones. It's fiberglass. It doesn't have any sort of an interior detailing on it. It's clearly been worn a lot. Man, I would hate to see the kid's face when he found out, like, Mom, you sold my clone helmet? What? Hopefully he watches my
As she's
show and he
putting it in
sees
a
it and
box.
he's going to see this and be like, so that's where it went. And if you're watching this, no, Timmy, you can't have it back. It's mine now.
What's your thoughts on Kenobi with the fight that's supposedly going to take place between Obi-Wan and Darth Vader? Like, as far as breaking canon or
Yeah,
whatever.
see, again, I keep going back and forth. I'm like, A, if they're going to have the fight, I'm not sure I want to know about it beforehand. That would have been a great surprise. But B, I don't know if it's going to break canon because I don't know if they're going to physically throw down. And even if they do physically throw down, like, I know that a fight is confirmed, but did you ever see Hero, the Jet Li movie?
Mm-mm.
Well,
I haven't.
he's a prefect. He tracks down Donnie Yen's character and they have a big fight. But before they fight, they just stand there and close their eyes, and then they like have the choreographed martial arts battle in their minds. It's like a battle of wits,
Mm-hmm.
and then they open their eyes and the fight ends. And I could see a sequence happening where Vader's in his meditation chamber and Kenobi's in his shack, and they both meditate simultaneously, and they meet each other on like the plane of Force existence, which we've seen before in Vader: Dark Lords of the Sith by Charles Soule and Giuseppe Camuncoli. There's a couple of panels of Vader doing his meditation, and it's one of the coolest visuals that we've actually gotten in new canon. I wish more people knew about this, but it's just like a really like turbulent, like stormy looking, fiery environment. And he's like, he looks like he's blackened and red and charred, but his limbs that have been cut off of him are glowing white in the Force, and like with their purity, because they are not touched by his corruption. They're no longer a part of him. What if we see Vader floating in that place and then Kenobi shows up? You know, Kenobi's able to commune with him through the Force, maybe with the techniques that we know that Qui-Gon's going to be teaching him, which Yoda set up for us at the end of Revenge of the Sith. It's possible that this fight takes place and they never even set foot in the same room. There's also his line. There's 2 lines of dialogue from the original trilogy that support a confrontation. One of them is, "You should not have come back." He says that he walked away from Kenobi. He says that when I left, I was but the learner and you were the master. Now I am the master. That could be taken literally. It could literally mean when I left the Jedi Order, you know.
Right.
You could go either way with that. The other one is in Return of the Jedi, when he says, Obi-Wan once thought as you do. When did Obi-Wan think about turning Vader back? Like, at least for our audiences, not like we never saw that happen. So that's.
But if they're communicating in that plane, that would make sense. If they're just communicating through the Force, and he is trying to convince him and see if there's any little bit of Anakin left in there, and trying to call him out, that line would make sense. I think what most people are getting caught up on is a presence I haven't felt since, and they're assuming that is since Mustafar.
Right, but that you know what happens when you assume. I don't know. I think that it's a presence that I have not felt since last week when we did this whole thing in Kenobi, or the presence I've not felt since Mustafar.
And this is
the
what,
fact that he
9
leaves it
years
means we get to add on the end of that sentence.
Exactly.
Which is
That's
wonderful. I love it when Star Wars does that. They just like strip mine little parts of things and create a whole series out of it. Like the fact that all of Rogue One came from the story crawl of A New Hope. Rebel starships striking from a hidden base have secured their first victory against the Galactic Empire and have stolen the plans for the dreaded battle station, the Death Star. That's where we get all of Rogue One, from that little section of the crawl. Like, it's really impressive when a franchise does that and just continually is self-referential in such a way. And not only do they go back and they find narrative elements and things that they've already written, then they go back to Ralph McQuarrie, who has passed away, and they go to his concept art and they mine it for new ideas that he drew in the 70s, that he drew in the 80s. And that's why
you saw that in Bad Batch.
Exactly. Like, and they hire people like Doug Chiang, who absolutely know how to take that visual language and expand upon it. And that's why it doesn't break your immersion when like a new art team works on it, because just like the building blocks are always there. They can physically fight and not break canon because of the lines of dialogue that have been established. They could have a metaphysical fight in the world between worlds, and that wouldn't break canon. I don't know. I'm honestly surprised that people. I don't know why I should be surprised that people are finding a way to complain about Kenobi potentially. Like, it's the most hype thing that we've gotten. Like, Boba Fett's not for everyone. There are people that thought he was lame in the originals. I don't think anyone thought Obi-Wan Kenobi was lame in the originals. Like, everyone should be on board for the Kenobi show.
Yeah, Don says Kenobi also says he's more machine than man now. How would he know if he hasn't seen him since Mustafar?
I mean, he has pretty firsthand knowledge that he doesn't have legs or an arm. And presumably he's heard about Vader walking around and picking things up with his hand. So it's not a stretch to put two and two together. But you're right. Like, if he witnesses it for himself, actually, I really hope he does, because that would be a really good emotional moment for Obi-Wan to really see his failure in front of him, you know? Because I don't consider it his failure, but he absolutely does. And so that's how it would be portrayed to us in this show.
Mm-hmm. World Between Worlds. Do you think Kenobi's the place to do it, or should that be in Ahsoka?
I was about to say, I think it will happen someday, but I think Ahsoka is the place to do it, and I think that Ezra is the one to teach us about it.
Yeah, because Ezra, it seems like because the Emperor wanted Ezra to open the portal for him, right?
Right.
Like, there's something special that Ezra has that can access the world between worlds. So
but
it definitely would have to
imply,
come from him.
Like, that shows that Palpatine has knowledge of it too. Palpatine knows it exists,
true,
but he can't get there himself. Ahsoka and Ezra and Morai are the only people we know that have actually entered the world between worlds.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, having knowledge about it is different.
Crazy. I fully expect Cal Kestis to show up in that show as well. Cameron Monaghan in live action, like, please, we have to get it.
I still have to play Fallen Order.
I'm playing through it on Twitch right now. It's so much fun. I did play it at launch, but I played it on a much crappier computer, so it's nice to get it on high graphics and everything.
Right. Two Star Wars Nerd says, I think there's no way they can meet in person and have it not break canon. I think there's ways to make it work, but it has to be done the right way. It has to be done tastefully. If you just like, oh yeah, we'll have a big fight and everyone will like it because it's Obi-Wan and rematch. If they go about it carelessly, it could be bad and it could break canon.
That's it runs that risk, you know. It's risky business taking two very beloved characters and altering their already very, very analyzed relationship. We talk about the relationship between Obi-Wan and Vader all the time. And if they change something that, like, even on a nuanced level changes that dynamic, people are going to be up in arms about it. People aren't going to know what to think. I would love it if Ezra came back dark. If he came back in kind of the Joris Kaboeth role to Thrawn. Like, how sweet would it be if Thrawn returns to the known regions, goes to Wayland, goes to Mount Tantus, which we saw at the end of Bad Batch.
Right.
And it says, hey, Ezra, here's your new, like, orrery. This is your room where you can ponder your orb and do dark side stuff for me. I'd be all about it.
Yeah. What do you think about Barriss in the Ahsoka show?
Would make more sense than having Barriss in Kenobi or in Andor.
Yeah.
Because Ahsoka and Barriss just have that relationship, you know? I've always wanted to know
she's an Inquisitor?
That seems likely to me, considering what we know about other Force-sensitive prisoners who were in custody at the time that the Republic became the Galactic Empire. That's generally what happened to them. I could see Barriss being one of those two, but I feel like her process of being broken would be, like, exceptionally brutal because she had tendencies, like, she bombed the Jedi Temple. She had anti-government tendencies, and so I feel like the Galactic Empire, of all people, would really stamp that out if they were going to use her. I think that her and Ahsoka would be, like, they should have their own twin sons moment, basically. I think Barriss should die in Ahsoka's arms, and that it should be really emotional for Ahsoka as well. Because Ahsoka only cared about Barriss.
It could be kind of the yin and yang to when Maul dies in Twin Sons.
That's what I'm saying, exactly.
Whereas Maul dies and he says he will avenge us, and it's like you missed the point. Maul, like, what if after Barriss is dealt that fatal blow, she has that realization of like I really went down the wrong path, and she kind of has that, like, come back to the light moment right before she dies. That could be a pretty
really interesting. I had never thought of that interpretation of Maul's line as, you think he doesn't get it. He thinks
right.
That, like,
he's still so focused on vengeance. Yeah.
See, I think that is his. See, I've always thought that he finally did get it. He will avenge us, meaning the chosen one will avenge us. And he's trying to, like, he's saying, like, he's finally says, I think the big change there is us. It's not just me anymore. Like he doesn't just want to be avenged. He wants Savage to be avenged. He wants everyone who's been screwed over by Palpatine along the way.
Everyone in the
That's an
entire
interesting
galaxy.
take. I hadn't thought of it that way.
That's how
Because
I've
you're right.
always
He's so
viewed
focused.
that.
He's so focused on the conflict, like the cycle just continuing like that. I
Yeah,
like
it's
that.
like
I actually like that better.
it's like almost in his last breath. It's like, if I couldn't do it, if you couldn't do it, the chosen one will.
It must be done. Is like all that matters.
And if they take kind of that same formula but invert it to where Barriss has that moment of like, I get it now, but in the positive, like it could be a really cool complement to each other.
I really like that idea. Actually, that would be really cool.
Yeah. What do you think about Andor?
Andor is up in the air for me. I thought that he was a really cool character in Rogue One. I don't know if his character is interesting enough to carry a series unless there's a strong ensemble cast. Like, we better meet some cool, colorful aliens that round out the group. I am really interested in the story of how Cassian and K2 meet and how he reprograms him. That's going to be really cool. I've always thought that kind of mirrors Han's Legends story of meeting Chewbacca, how he was an Imperial cadet and he frees him. I think that would be really, really cool if they could mirror it in that way and actually give us that story. So someone gets to have that story in canon. Live action Callus. Yeah, Andor would be the perfect place to put live action Callus. I wonder who they could play, who they could cast for him, because you gotta be able to match David Oyelowo's really he's got that silky smooth voice, you know. Callus is a smooth talking bad guy. Yeah, would be cool.
I think with Andor, for me personally, I'm excited for it. I need to know more information first before I get really excited. But I think kind of what we were talking about earlier, it doesn't have to be epic battles or even characters that we're super invested in. I want like the story to be awesome. And it might not even have anything really important to do with a whole lot of other stuff. But if it's like a spy thriller, but just set in the Star Wars universe, that could be really cool. Like really low stakes because it doesn't really mean a whole lot. But what they could do with this series could be really cool. Because the opening scene of Rogue One, where we get introduced to Cassian, he's pretty gnarly. He just shoots the guy in the back.
Yeah.
The mission comes first.
There's not much he won't do. He's the definition of a gritty character in that way. And seeing the formation of him becoming Fulcrum, I think, would be really fascinating.
Oh, and X-Wing has a really good point. He says you're missing the biggest part of Andor is the early birth of the rebellion.
It's true. It's true.
That's
They're
a good
filling
thing. I
in that
didn't think
gap.
about that.
I mean, we saw the earliest birth of the rebellion in a deleted scene from Revenge of the Sith, and now we can expand on that. I've always thought that the Force Unleashed take on the birth of the rebellion was very silly. It was very silly, and they're like, okay, we're going to do it this way. By the way, the whole thing's been orchestrated by Vader as like a ploy, but we're going to choose this symbol to be the Rebel Alliance just because it happens to be carved into the table that we're standing in. Like that's the story we're going to use.
An explanation. Yeah.
Force Unleashed was a lot of things, but a great story. I don't know. It's all about that action and that gameplay. But if you think about the story for too long, it doesn't make sense.
Dude, we're getting Organa, Mothma, Tantive, maybe some calls to Echo Base, Yavin, etc. There's so many possibilities. And again,
we're not going to be getting any calls to Echo Base just yet. That does not. Afra actually discovers Echo Base and offers it to the rebellion during the period between 4 and 5. Yeah. So they wouldn't have known about it yet. But I think kind of little setups for sure.
I think if they focus on the isolated story by itself, limit the like big world implications, but have the little tie-ins, I think it could be a good recipe for them. I'm excited for it. I just want it to be a spy thriller.
Mandalorian kind of raised the stakes by the end of the second season. It was on par with like big galactic things that are going on. But the first season felt very meditative, very drawn out, especially those first 3 episodes. That's the kind of energy and that's the kind of vibe that I really hope for Andor and for Ahsoka too, for that matter. I want to see this town that he's growing up in. I want to know what it's like to live a day in the life there. You know, I want to see him like going to the marketplace and buying some food, like maybe go and like talking to some droid or something. Like I don't want to gloss over that and get to plot. Like let it take its time. Live action Star Wars needs to breathe. absolutely needs to have that kind of pacing.
Which is kind of what I hope Book of Boba Fett does, and
Yes.
kind of what it seems like. It's like he's bringing together these crime lords, and it doesn't need to be a battle every single second. So that breathing is really important because we have action anywhere else in Hollywood.
Yes.
So
There's no shortage, that's for sure. It would be cool to get Mon Mothma in there too.
Mandalorian made us believe in Star Wars again, that we can see our favorite characters in live action. Yeah, a lot of people feel that way.
Being able to have live action Star Wars TV is just so gratifying. It's something that I have wanted, since the original rumors back in the early 2000s. There was rumors that George Lucas was developing a live action TV show, and then they just couldn't make it work because the technology wasn't ready yet and the budget was just a little too high. But there is footage that's floating around out there. I've seen it before, of like some tests, so early tests, stage tests and costumes and things that they did for a live action Star Wars show. And it looks about as good as that, as Troops or Imps. Yeah, it looks about as good as that Imps fan film series does nowadays. But this was a decade before the volume was invented. But I never lost, like, that rumor never left my brain. And it was always like, live action Star Wars TV would be so cool. And so I was just jumping for joy when Disney Plus announced The Mandalorian coming as a show. And now we've got like so many to choose from. Like it's insanely gratifying. I remember the drought. Yeah. You remember the drought, I'm sure too, when dancing Xbox Star Wars games was the best we could hope for. Like we didn't have anything coming out. If you wanted some new Star Wars stories, you had to pick up a comic book or a book that was like 5 to 6 years old. You weren't getting any new video game titles. Like we weren't getting anything until that Disney buyout happened. So like maybe we don't love all of the content that we're getting nowadays, but at least we're getting it.
Yeah. And going back to what I said before, the headcanon is the best canon. There's a feast of whatever Star Wars you want. And if you don't like it, don't eat it again.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, do you think that a Star Wars movie or a trilogy could be or needs to be on the horizon, or should they just stick with series for now?
I think they should go back and forth. And I think that we should get a series of a couple shows that run simultaneous to each other, and then have a movie, like a crossover cinematic event that serves as a finale. Kind of the way that Marvel rolls out their standalone movies and then tie them with Avengers episodic ones. But instead of standalone movies, you'd have standalone shows.
Mm-hmm.
So the season 1 finale of like Book of Boba Fett and like 2 other shows that are in that same time period, they would all be resolved in one long movie that comes out in theaters. Yeah. And then season 2 of each show would come out, followed by a sequel to that movie, and so on and so forth. I think a combination of both is the best way to go.
Drought of Star Wars, 1983 to 99.
Are you kidding me? You think the Drought of Star Wars is during the time period that Heir to the Empire came out?
That's true.
You think Thrawn showed up in the Drought of Star Wars? No. The Drought of Star Wars was 2005 to 2015. When we had all of the Force Awakens games we were ever going to get. Battlefront was out. Republic Commando was out. KOTOR 1 and 2. Besides a couple of mobile games and a few flight sims, we didn't get anything until the Disney buyout. Unless you count
Star Wars Nerds.
I don't.
Says, what is your favorite fan film? First time I've seen you tonight. So sorry if you've said it in the past.
Oh, no problem. That's a question that I never mind answering over and over again, because the answer changes quite a lot because I'm always seeing new ones. I think my favorite Star Wars fan film of all time, I think it's still Gonk, A Star Wars Story. I've seen some really impressive ones with big budgets, lots of CGI, really good costumes, action, choreography, all these fancy effects. But this one, Gonk, A Star Wars Story, is some kid, probably like 10 years old, with his kid brother filming him like in the park, just wearing a cardboard Gonk suit, waddling around in the woods. And he finds like some droid and he like gives it a charge. And it's the hokiest, like lowest budget thing you've ever seen. But you can't help but smile when you watch it.
I'm gonna have to check it out.
This encapsulates like fandom. This is what love for Star Wars looks like. And the reason I love Star Wars fan films so much is because of the proprietary nature of the franchise and because of copyright. You can't make money making a Star Wars fan film. Like you're not going to get rich making Star Wars fan films. It's just not possible.
Right.
That's how you know that every time someone makes a Star Wars fan film, it's a labor of love. It's a passion project. They're not actually getting anything out of it other than their celebration of the love for this franchise. And it's something that more people need to watch because there's some really hilarious ones. There's some really high quality ones. Yeah. But Gonk just brought it back to basics. It's just some kid in a cardboard box wandering around in the woods making Gonk sounds. And it's just so good. It's so entertaining.
Well, that's why people need to subscribe to your channel, because you are, again, trying to watch every fan film ever made for Star Wars and react to it. So I just put your channel link in. So if you are not subscribed, please do it. Because again, subscribing costs you nothing. It's literally a little button you push, but to someone, it means a whole lot.
Absolutely does.
There you go.
There's more than just fan film reviews going on over there. Every Wednesday, I host Comics with Katarn, where I do dramatic reads of the new Star Wars comics that have released live on Twitch and then archived on YouTube. And I'm also playing my way through the expansions of SWTOR for the first time right now, posting reactions to that footage too.
I've never played it.
Yeah, well, if you don't have time, you can play it vicariously through the playthroughs. Like, a lot of people have been commenting that, saying that like they stepped away from the game and now they get to see the story continue. It's a lot of fun.
Awesome. Yeah, 2 Star Wars Nerds said subbed.
Hey, thank you.
And they've got an awesome channel too. 2 Star Wars Nerds.
Oh, very interesting. I will have to sub
definitely
back.
someone to check out.
I'll watch your career with great interest.
Yeah. They're relatively new to the game, but one of the channels that the YouTube algorithm has really favored recently, and it's really cool to see.
That's some good luck.
Yeah. The Reckonite Gentleman, when collecting
Hard
the
to get
odds
that
being in your
favor, let me
favor.
tell you.
Phase 1 for 75. All right, night X-Wing. I'll see you.
Have a great night, man.
Subbed on the hotel review. Yeah, we can talk about the hotel review promo.
Oh man,
I still can't believe they actually pulled it.
I mean, it's a positive sign that they did. It means they're actually listening to people.
Yeah, that actually is true. I didn't think about.
Well,
that.
it means the PR department is listening to people. I don't know if the decision makers are going to do anything differently.
Yeah, I think for me to be happy, again, it goes back to world building. I want to feel like this is a real place. If you put me in a place that like feels like the Death Star and give me like a cheap bunk to sleep in, just as if I was a stormtrooper, I would be happy.
Totally, because it would be immersive.
That's just me.
It would be more immersive.
Yeah, I don't need any like Twilight dancers in a ballroom or anything. Like,
I think the Twilight dancer would be cool if she was performing on Batuu and you just had to pay park admission to go to like the cantina and they had like live music that way. Totally cool. Like, it's cool. It's interesting. It's not $6,000 for a 2-night stay. Interesting.
Right.
Though. A hotel with no windows.
Yeah.
A very Star Trek feeling bridge. Like, and I don't know. I feel like, honestly, the content in that video could have been presented in a different way to actually get people excited about it.
Yeah, it wasn't produced
like
well.
Forced enthusiasm, like very contrite. It just, and at first I was kind of like, they know what they're doing, right? This is tongue in cheek, like they're breaking the fourth wall and being, look at us guys, we're being hokey. No, they were trying to sell it. They were trying to sell us on this level of ugh. It just felt gross.
Yeah,
felt weird. I wouldn't mind. Yeah, like I'm saying, the Twilight entertainment would be great. I just don't think that alone can carry that kind of a price tag.
It was just produced weird. Like, I didn't like the look of the hallways. It didn't feel Star Wars. It felt like how someone who's watched the movies a couple times would want to make their kids' room look if they were into Star Wars.
Honestly, the only thing that it reminded me of that was Star Warsy was Lando's Falcon. It's the only thing it kind of felt like aesthetically wise, because it had like the orange cushioning, a lot of white walls. It kind of felt like Lando's version of the Millennium Falcon. But yeah, personally, I would want an Imperial Stay too. I'd be like, give me a rack on the Death Star in like the troops compartment, whatever.
Yeah.
Or even like, let me have like a hammock in the back of an AT-AT that's like shaking, like it's walking through it.
Yes.
Like, that'd be great. I'd totally have fun with that. That white noise would just rock me to sleep.
You could stay in the back of a sand crawler, just like all squished up against a bunch of droid parts.
If you get kicked out, if you like break a rule and get bounced, they throw you in like a little escape pod and make you sit in there for 30 minutes as you watch the ship get smaller and smaller, and then you're allowed out. Like,
that's awesome. See, this is what fans would create.
The drunk people to sober up a little bit before you leave them out of the park. Like, go get in the escape pod.
That's awesome. See, this is what us fans would create. like an experience, not just like pay a lot of money for the Star Wars name.
If they, I mean, like honestly, like it sucks for the consumers seeing what we saw, but like for those out of work minimum wage actors out there trying to get some park jobs, like I would be a stormtrooper. Like I haven't actually spoken to anyone that has those jobs, whether or not it's like really lame or if they really enjoy getting to walk around in armor all day. But I
Yeah.
feel like that would be really fun to do just because I'm such a nerd. I
Right.
don't know about full time. I'd probably get old after a while, but like I don't know. This is coming from a guy who's never been able to go to a Disney park. I've never been able to.
Mm.
I've never been close enough to him or been able to afford to just take time off work and things like that. So I'm really, really looking forward to going to Celebration in 22 because it'll be my first time going to a Star Wars convention, and it'll also be my first time going to Galaxy's Edge. So I really can't wait.
See, I grew up in Disneyland essentially. I grew up going to Disneyland in Anaheim, California, twice a week.
So infinitely jealous of that.
It was a great childhood, but the Disneyland park now is not the same Disneyland that I grew up in. I went on weekdays because I was homeschooled, so my mom would take us with our schoolwork, and so our school day would be in Disneyland.
Sounds
so
amazing.
you go on a ride, get off to my math homework, go on another ride, and this is during a weekday when they would have less than 100 people in the entire park.
Oh man,
That doesn't exist now.
Sure.
And
It's
this
just too
is
many people
before
all the time.
This is before Galaxy's Edge, before a lot of stuff, but that Disneyland doesn't exist anymore. And you can't get annual passes anymore. We used to buy the annual passes and then you can go as much as you want, but you can't even get the passes now. It's not the same. I haven't been to the one in Florida yet, Disney World. We might check
Is
that
that
out.
where the launch bay is, or is that also in the?
I don't know. I've never been there to Disney World, but
Grand Admiral Gamer, you're in Florida. Do you know if the launch bay is exclusive to the Walt Disney World? Totally.
they
That
could have
totally
had
would have helped.
yeah.
Absolutely would have helped. Having
Yeah.
a droid in the hall.
Yeah, just give me a place that feels like somewhere in Star Wars with a couple method actors that just live out their role-playing
Totally.
character for an 8-hour shift. Like someone who's really passionate about acting could stay in character for a full shift. No problem.
Yeah.
It would be fun for them to talk to people in whatever outfit or accent they're using.
I'd be like a drunken homeless Athorian, just like huddled in the corner, and I'd just like yell obscenities and Huttese at anyone that gets too close.
That's awesome. Yeah.
6 hours a day. Minimum
That's so
wage.
funny.
Sign me up.
What's up, T. Davidson?
Thank you. Hello there. Or Achua Penki, speaking of Huttese.
Achuta.
How?
Otogunga.
I love Otogunga. I actually have a bunch of framed concept art that Doug Chiang did of Otogunga and the Grand Army of the Naboo all over the wall over there. Yeah, I actually have an entire wall of Gungan concept art. It's one of the things that I collect outside of the helmets. Mostly Macquarie's, but I got some Chiang's as well. I would love to see Otogunga on the volume with that new volume technology. Just imagine how cool that could look.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. The technology today in how, especially with that, it's just so good. Like there's so many possibilities. Avella has a thing for Ponkrell.
That'd be so good. Just like with some foam sabers, you just jump out of the bushes and attack the clones every once in a while. Just give the
Strike,
kids
if you played Boba Fett for a full shift, you'd have to relax after work in the Polynesian spa.
Ah, yes. I've been to Rotorua. I've never been to the Polynesian spa though.
Yeah, I don't know. I would love to go to Galaxy's Edge. My brother actually, shout out to Sus T if you're watching. It's his birthday today. He went to Galaxy's Edge today and he video chatted me from like in front of the Millennium Falcon. I'm like, that does look pretty darn cool.
I can't wait. I can't wait to take that same photo that everyone's taken.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm gonna take it.
Yeah. The Polynesian spa.
Yeah, I grew up in New Zealand. I grew up on Waiheke Island, and I lived in Mount Albert for a while, which is not too far away from Rotorua, which is where that Polynesian spa was. Yeah, I actually grew up watching Temuera Morrison on a soap opera called Shortland Street, which is kind of like the New Zealand version of General Hospital. And he played a Guatemalan doctor called Dr. Rapita. And he would always do weird stuff. And then the nurses and the doctors would be like, "You're not in Guatemala anymore, Dr. Rapita." That was like his breakout role. I still remember that.
That's
It was like
awesome.
early 90s stuff. So if I ever get to meet Tim, I'm gonna talk to him about Shortland Street. Be like, yeah,
That's awesome.
how's things going back there? And then he did Once Were Warriors and What Became of the Brokenhearted, which, if you've seen them, super depressing movies. Like they're not light watch throughs. They're very heavy subject matter. It's about like domestic violence. But he's absolutely incredible in those movies. Definitely watch him if you're starving for some Temuera content before Book of Boba Fett comes out. I could really recommend all of the stuff he did as an independent New Zealand actor. I've seen most of it. It's incredible. The man's a great actor.
I will have to check it out. Did he channel his inner clone for the soap opera?
No, but he definitely does in Once Were Warriors.
Yeah,
no, you definitely see the fighting side of Boba.
That's awesome. Well, we have what 20 more days or something? 20 more days.
Many. I can't.
I'm excited, and I'm going to be trying to do reactions to him because that's the hot thing, and maybe I'll get on the YouTube algorithm's good side.
It'll be my first time doing remote reactions. My co-host Bendu moved several states away. He's like 2,000 miles away now. So we're going to be doing like a Discord call and then watching it remotely. So,
well, I will be tuning in, and I'm sure hopefully you've gotten some new viewers from my channel tonight, and I'm sure they'll be watching as well. I look forward to your reactions all the time, just from whenever you post them, just because I want to see if there's anything that I missed that you caught or something. It's like, I think I know what that is, but like, I know that you'll catch it because I forget who said it earlier. You're the walking Wikipedia.
Well, I try, and there's occasionally like there'll be things that like I like watching Blind Wave, and I always pay attention to Eric Whiteley from Blind Wave and the things that he catches, and because oftentimes him and I make like the exact same observations. I've noticed that, and every once in a while he'll catch something that I didn't catch, and I'll be like, "No!" I'll like fall off the couch, like, "Damn it, you win this one, Eric." The theory, I think the canon version of you might just be the apprentice we play in Vader Immortal. I think that if that's true, he would be one of many versions of Kyle that we see in canon right now. The most obvious to me is Kanan Jarrus from Rebels, because he has the visual look of Kyle Katarn. He's got the shoulder pad. And then later on, he takes, like, he's an amalgamation of Kyle Katarn and Rom Koda from The Force Unleashed, because eventually he has the whole blind mentor archetype thing going on. But even more spooky than that is that Kanan Jarrus' girlfriend is Vanessa Marshall playing Harrison Dula. Well, Kyle Katarn's girlfriend was Jan Ors, also played by Vanessa Marshall. So they transported his look. They even transported his girlfriend into canon,
right,
for Kanan. But then you've also got characters like Cassian Andor. His role in stealing the Death Star plans straight out of the Dark Forces tutorial level, that was originally a feat given to Kyle Katarn. So there's a couple different people. And then if you're going to take a look at if you go by the theory that Finn is in fact Force sensitive at the end of The Rise of Skywalker, which is what he is like insinuating, then Finn is also part of the Kyle Katarn amalgamation because he's a stormtrooper who leaves and becomes Force sensitive. So we've seen a couple Kyle Katarns in canon already. None of them had quite as nice of a beard as the OG, but like Blind Kanan had a pretty good one, actually. Blind Kanan had a good beard.
Right.
And I think he even had Jan Ors. He even had Vanessa Marshall. So I think
I think that goes back to what you were saying earlier about making things canon, but tastefully and differently. Like, it's not Kyle Katarn just like bleh into official canon now. We're taking a little bit of this and a little bit of this, and we're making something new, or tweaking this character a little bit, or this situation we're changing a little bit and presenting it in a way that either more people can digest, the masses can appreciate, or that would work better for whatever media it's being portrayed in.
Sure. And I mean, I think the other almost unintended consequence of that is that people who are intimately familiar with these characters from the books and know all that extra knowledge we get to be surprised. We don't necessarily know. We haven't spoiled ourselves. We don't necessarily know how it's going to end just because so-and-so dies this way in the book. Well, they're reinventing the character. It's the name and it's the look, and it might be part of the plot details, but maybe they don't die at all, or maybe someone else kills them, or some like. So we haven't ruined it for ourselves with having read these books and like, oh well, now we know how that's going to end. Not necessarily anymore, and so they're preserving that suspense for us, the knowledgeable people, as well.
Right.
And I really do appreciate that. A lot of people, they have this feeling of ownership over characters, to where like if they change it, you're like, I didn't give you permission to do that. And I think that's less healthy. I think it should be more of a case of, oh, they changed it. That was nice of them. Now I get to be a fresh audience member to this. Totally not Star Wars related, but I'm watching the Wheel of Time TV series on Apple TV right now.
I haven't heard it.
It's based on Robert Jordan's book series. It's like considered like the great American fantasy epic. They've changed the daylights out of it. So different from the books. But I'm not hating it, and I think the reason that they're changing it is because that those of us who read the books get to be surprised as well, because we can't really anticipate where it's going. I think I can, but like if they've changed these things, who knows what else they'll change? You know, like that's kind of the mindset they want you to have. You don't know what's coming. Star Wars does step on its own toes with canon sometimes. Like Kanan the Last Padawan got a slight retcon from the Bad Batch. The Ahsoka novel by E.K. Johnston got a bit of a retcon from Clone Wars Season 7. But like the broad strokes remain the same, you know. There are tiers of canon here at work. Like a movie, a saga film is at the top. Live action Star Wars will always supersede animation. Animation will always supersede a graphic novel, and a graphic novel will always supersede a book.
Right.
A single player campaign of a video game is up there pretty high these days because of stuff like Jedi Fallen Order, but that wasn't always the case. I'd say that's up there with TV shows now. But yeah, things like you can't really like, just because it's canon doesn't mean it's going to stay that way forever. Things get retconned, things get changed. And it's important to remember that so you don't get disappointed. And instead you're like, oh, that's so nice of them. They're like, I spoiled myself by reading Heir to the Empire, and now I have no idea what happens to Thrawn in canon. Right. Rook's not going to stab him through the back of his chair during an assault. Like, that's not going to happen. We don't know what's going to happen.
Right. Well, everyone, I appreciate you being here. I am going to take a quick break real quick, and I'll be back in hopefully like 60 seconds. So don't go anywhere. I am going to play the intro again because I don't have any other video files in here. So intro. And welcome back to Mustaches on Mustafar. Let me catch up on the chat. Grand Admiral Gamer says great conversation so far. He also said he subscribed to me, so thank you very much. I really appreciate that. hope to see you in the chat in some future live streams because we have a good little community here. I'm happy with, you see the regulars pop up in the chat and you
Get to know
recognize
'em.
those names. And like you were saying earlier, it's eventually like you might get to a point where you'll see those names pop up every now and then when you know those people from the beginning of your channel.
It really
That's
does make
actually
it feel like a community, you know?
right. And we do have a really good community. For anyone that's not new to my channel, or for anyone that is new that hasn't been here a while, that doesn't know about my channel, don't be fooled by the subscriber count, because I've been posting stuff on YouTube for a lot longer than Star Wars content. So not that many people are active viewers or fans of Star Wars. But if it gets me closer to that 1,000 subscriber mark, then cool. One question I wanted to actually ask you is, how did you start your channel? You kind of mentioned, the channels that inspired you, and you felt like you had your voice to share stuff. But how did you start your YouTube channel?
I started off with, I reacted to the Twin Sons episode of Rebels. That's where I started. And behind me was a single bookshelf that had a couple of Legends novels and a Black Series Stormtrooper helmet on it. And just like you said, I just felt like I had something to contribute to the dialogue that was happening. I was watching I first became aware of reactions as a concept when the Force Awakens trailer came out. I think that's true of a lot of people.
Yeah,
and
same for me as well.
It was just such a cultural event. And it never occurred to me to watch someone watch something before. But seeing people freak out about Star Wars and feel the exact same way that I knew that I felt like this very strong connection and like a sense of kinship with these other people. And I was like, well, I want to try and put that out into the universe myself, because I have so many thoughts about Star Wars, and I live in a somewhat isolated location, isolated socially, to where I don't really know anyone IRL that I can dive into about Star Wars. I can't just nerd out on that deep level. I used to. I had my best friend Bendu, but he's moved away, and so even before that, though, it fills a void for you socially, where you now are surrounded by like-minded individuals. And I mostly just wanted to enter into that community. That's really why I started doing YouTube. And then I've always been a fan of fan films. The Fan Network, TFN, from way back in the day. I remember pulling those up on my dial-up internet connection. I realized that there was this huge influx of fan films that were flooding the channel all of a sudden, because there was this huge just boosting of interest in Star Wars again. All of these people who had kind of set it aside after the prequels came out, and we went through that drought up into 2015, they were all coming back in, and they were all suddenly becoming creative and just using their imagination. And I'm a Reddit user. Reddit suddenly became flooded with fan art that people were drawing. I was always subscribed to fan art channels, but they were used to be really inactive, and now suddenly everyone's drawing, everyone's writing fan fiction. Everyone's making fan films. It's it really did kickstart that cultural enthusiasm. And I started reacting to it because I wanted to use the give a signal boost using the following that I was slowly getting just out of nowhere. And I'm 150 fan films deep at this point. No end in sight. We're just going to keep going. Maybe I'll make one of my own someday. I would love to do that.
Nice.
We'll see.
I don't think you'll ever have a shortage of fan films.
No,
because that's really the true expression of a fan, and how they show their appreciation of the franchises. You know what? I'm gonna make my version of that. I'm gonna get into that creation, and to an extent, we do the same thing in whether live streaming like I'm doing, or gaming streams, or even the edited videos, or even the shorts, that the YouTube shorts now that are becoming popular. It's just, this is how we express our love for this and share it with other people. I'm talking to 20 people at a time right now, which is awesome, because I think my previous record was 21 concurrent viewers, and we beat that tonight. So
can you imagine back in 1998 trying to get 20 random strangers in a room to talk about Star Wars with you? It'd be so impossible. This is quite an impressive and exciting thing that we all get to be a part of, because we just happen to be around right now in 2021 when this technology is available. And I've noticed that a lot of really good content creators have all just sort of come out of the woodwork in the last 2 years. And I attribute some of that to the pandemic, the lockdown, and a lot more people spending time at home. I know that my viewership got a huge boost when lockdown happened. Suddenly everyone's not going to work. Suddenly everyone's at home watching YouTube.
Right.
And I was getting crazy views. All of my
right, and then whatever episode comes
that
out, and people want to see if other people caught the same thing or if they felt the same way with a certain scene. And I think that's reactions as a whole. That's why it's popular, is not just because the concept of watching someone watch something is weird. It doesn't make sense.
About it, it's weird.
Right, but it's like, I want to feel like I'm watching this with you. I want to know if you're feeling the same things at this particular scene. I want to know if in your shortened down, getting past the Disney blockade, if you included that little clip that I felt special about in your little YouTube safe version.
It absolutely allows you to like compare your own thoughts to someone else's thoughts, and it's almost like you're hanging out with them. Your brain gives you almost as much serotonin as it would if you guys were chilling, but you get a little bit of serotonin from it. And it's like, it is like your brain does actually get something from that level of interaction, even though it's not a real-time interaction, which is totally fascinating.
I binged the Victory and Death reactions on YouTube for like a few days after that. Just the ending of Clone Wars was just too powerful, even for someone like me who hasn't seen Clone Wars all the way through. It just was too perfect of an ending. I needed to know that other people felt the same way.
It allows you to feel it with people who feel it the most.
Exactly.
And that is a powerful thing for people who casually care about it. It helps you understand something if you can watch someone else like deeply care for that thing.
Right.
It gives you a level of understanding and perspective that if you're just a casual, you're like, I don't get why people like this. And then you watch someone be brought to tears by that thing. You're like, oh, I get it now. It's beautiful for them. Like, and reactions really help you gain that perspective.
And I think for Luke's return in The Mandalorian, why the reactions were so powerful to watch, because the brilliance behind Luke's return is it was brought in stages. If you saw a single X-Wing, some people caught that. If you saw him pull into the hangar and you saw R2, some people caught that. If you saw the fighting style, some people caught that. If you saw the one glove, some people caught that. Some people didn't.
The shade of green. You know,
the green, some people got that. Some people didn't even get it until he pulled the hood. Like, you get to see where different people were at.
I'm sure someone out there, he pulled the hood and someone was like, who's that?
Yeah. I know people that didn't know until the very last minute. They were expecting Cal Kestis.
I knew when it flew past the windows.
Yeah. I was like, wait.
He had the wing markings of Red 5.
For me, it was... because you hear the rumors and you know people are expecting Luke to show up, but you don't think they're actually going to do it.
Right. I thought that was untouchable. He was just locked in this box in my mind. Like, you don't touch Luke Skywalker. Right. Like,
and it was almost like as it's coming up to the end of the episode, you know someone has to show up. You don't know who it is, but you're thinking, we would have heard a leak or something. Something would have leaked out of the studio if this was true. And then whatever that moment for you, for me, it was when Cara Dune said one X-Wing. I was like, who flies around in one X-Wing? That's not the Dave Filoni guy we saw earlier. He had his buddy. Like, who flies? Red 5. It's got to be.
Absolutely.
But then even then, you hold on to that little bit of reserve of like, I don't want to fully get excited because what if it's not? What if it's not?
You want to protect yourself from that level of hype because it'll crush you if it turns out to not be true. Because no matter what, the level of hype that you reach is always inversely proportional to the level of disappointment you're going to feel if it's not true.
Exactly.
And so I could totally understand everyone being like, oh, don't let it be Luke. I don't want to believe that it's Luke. But I'm really surprised that there were no leaks about Plo Koon showing up. Knowing what we know now about how they used a Plo Koon costume as the stand-in for shooting it with the actors, just in case the word got out to protect that secret.
Well, they had a really
and
tight
I didn't hear
lid on
any
it.
word about Plo Koon until after the production had come out. So
Same.
Good job. Tight ship. It was a tight Arquitens.
That was I would like to think that's probably the biggest plot twist that was held the tightest.
Yes, I would say both of the biggest plot twists in recent Star Wars history came from The Mandalorian. The existence of Grogu and Luke showing up. because no one knew that Grogu was going to
Right.
happen.
And everything leaks nowadays, so that's really an impressive feat that they were able to keep that secret. So, and
I find
it makes you wonder, what are they keeping secret like that?
Yeah, what do we know about in
for
Book of
the
Boba
upcoming
Fett?
shows?
I'm telling you, Amelia Clark is just waiting in the wings to walk out there and accept her Emmy for best actress in Book of Boba Fett, like in 2 years. It's
What do you
happen.
think her character role is going to be, aside from like antagonist you mentioned coming in at the finale?
She is absolute. So every time that we've seen her in the comics, she's a little bit more powerful than the time before that. Like she's just on this meteoric rise through the criminal underworld because she's able to unite so many different people, different organizations, and bring them under the banner of Crimson Dawn. She has infiltrators in the Hutts, among the Empire, the Rebel Alliance, Black Sun, everywhere. And she's cocky as hell. And she's not afraid to let you know that she has power. And she's like, I'm planning to blackmail you, by the way, just so like, and there's nothing you can do about it. So I'm just going to tell you, like, I don't think that she's going to be defeated by Boba Fett, though. I think that she needs to die at the hands of Leia. I think that's the way the story's going to end. But I think that she is going to be like the main antagonist. She's going to be the power that Boba needs to contend with if he wants to become a power in that sector himself.
Right.
He's going to be like, okay, well, Jabba's dead. This is my palace now. Let's rule with respect. Whether or not he was being sarcastic, I believe he was being genuine. I don't know if you know about the significance of color in Mandalorian culture.
A little bit with the yellow and red.
It's not entirely canon now, but yes. So he had the yellow tally marks on the top of his helmet. Yellow represents vengeance and prowess in combat. When he repainted his armor in Mandalorian Season 2, he changed the color of them to red. Red represents honoring your legacy and your parents. And I think that is a subtle way that they are visually showing the change in Boba's motivation and his goals. And he doesn't really care about revenge anymore. It's more about honoring the legacy of Jaster Muriel and Jango Fett. And that's why it was so important to him to show Din Djarin the chain code. It wasn't just because Djarin was questioning whether or not this armor belonged to him. It's because he was like, bro, look, I'm on your team, okay? Like,
right.
Yeah, Maria Espino, we are thinking the same thing. Absolutely.
Yeah, and she honestly wasn't even.
It's going to be a big surprise for anyone that didn't read the comics, but the clues are all there.
And honestly, she wasn't even on my radar for people to show up. Probably because I saw Solo once, didn't really like it, and so I kind of wrote it off as not important. But again, if they bring her back, and I mean, Maul has a part to play still as well, not in Book of Boba Fett, but that they teased. Like there's still so much they could do with it.
We could see Maul again in some context, especially if we're given a lot of backstory on Amelia Clark as Kira, because Kira leads a coup against Maul. She's the reason Maul is stranded when he's found in Rebels. Like she totally takes over Crimson Dawn, and we haven't gotten that story yet. We'll probably get a lot of it as exposition in Crimson Reign, but you don't leave a talent like Amelia Clark waiting in the wings for long. Like they've got to bring her in soon. And I think Boba Fett's the perfect place to do it.
I'm gonna give Solo another chance. I didn't hate it. I just didn't have a desire to watch it again. I'll give it another chance and pay attention to her character, and then look into the comics as well.
Yeah.
Pre-Boba Fett.
You mentioned earlier talking about you praised Mandalorian and Bad Batch and Rogue One for being lightsaberless Star Wars. Solo as well.
Right.
Solo only has that one lightsaber from Darth Maul on the hologram. Yeah. I definitely think that it's worth like watching it with like, I don't know, a wider lens. Don't like watch it with the lowest stakes you can. Like just be like, entertain me. And it's pretty fun.
I'm going to, along with the sequel trilogy as a whole, because like I said, from the very beginning of The Force Awakens, I kind of was like, what is this? I don't like this. And then like kind of hardened my heart. Rogue One was an exception. I had no expectations. It blew it out of the water. And then Last Jedi,
if you're able to acknowledge that for yourself, that's the hardest part. So you're going to have no trouble divorcing yourself from that thinking, watching it a second time. It's the people who aren't able to come to terms with the fact that they had a part to play and why they didn't like it.
Yes. Oh
Those
well,
are the people that
I
will never
fully
be able to see it and get anything out of it.
right.
But the fact that you were able to say that just now means that you're gonna find anything that you're looking for. Like that's not gonna be a
Yeah.
problem for you. I can tell.
Yeah. I hope by the end of it, I'm able to have logical reasons as to why I don't like it, as opposed to hate, because I do have my reasons. But again, my heart is pretty hard towards it. I want
Sure.
to be able to reconcile that of like, this is why I don't like it, but this is why I didn't like it to begin with because of how I was feeling. Like that's kind of my goal with that.
I always find that I am way harsher on a first viewing than subsequent
Mm,
viewings. Even on a movie that I decide at the end, I'm like, okay, I didn't like that. By the second
right
one,
on us.
I'm usually a bit more forgiving.
Mm,
Usually because I know where it's going. I don't have to pay attention to the narrative. I can look at details and I can find things that impress me that I didn't necessarily know were there before.
mhm.
That's part of it as well. Like you need to focus most of your concentration on following the story if you don't know where the story ends. If it's the first time you're seeing a thing,
Mm,
and that's why that's really the benefit of a rewatch is you can kind of set that to the side because you know how that's going to go and just like look at the set design, look at the alien language on the wall, look at the costumes, look at this and that.
yeah.
Things that maybe pass you by the first time you see something. At least for
And
me with
some
Star Wars, it's all about the dialogue and the details, and I need to hear everything, you know.
right.
And then the second time, I need to see everything, and the third time, it's like references and Easter eggs.
And honestly, the first thing that opened up my eyes to giving a second chance to the sequel trilogy was something my dad said on a stream. Someone in the comment said, like, you all have to say one nice thing about the sequels. And my dad was like, well, The Force Awakens was really the first time we got to see an accurate depiction of the scale of a Star Destroyer. When they're on Jakku and she's scavenging through them, you get to see how massive they are. And I was like, you know what? I didn't think about that. That's actually a really cool thing.
That part was super cool.
So
That's
I'll
that's
definitely have
that's
to go
kind of the
through.
pacing that I hope
Oh,
for
speaking of
Kenobi
him,
as
there
well.
he is.
Hello there.
Yeah, so I'm definitely going to give Solo another run through before Book of Boba Fett. And if you could send me which comic is important for her character as well, for Kira.
Yeah, absolutely. She's the central figure of a crossover event, which is War of the Bounty Hunters, and that takes place across Star Wars, Bounty Hunters, Darth Vader, and Dr. Aphra. And then War of the Bounty Hunters has its own episodic. There's 5 of them. And then starting this Wednesday, there'll be Crimson Reign, which is going to be another 4 or 5 issue arc, which is continuing that story past the point of Return of the Jedi. And all signs point to it's going to narratively conclude and just drop her right into the Book of Boba Fett.
Star Wars has its good and bad things in every movie. Can't we all just take the good and leave the bad? I love all of Star Wars. Yeah, I'm coming around to that opinion. Like we've been talking about, kind of the theme of tonight is headcanon. Pick what you want. If you don't like it, set it aside and don't eat it again.
It's not like the whole thing's been rolled up into. It's not like the whole thing is a salad wrap. It's a charcuterie plate, and you pick little things off of it. You don't have to take a bite of everything at once.
Yep.
And
right.
as for me, I don't know. I take that rationale even a step further, and I say that we must accept the bad to enjoy the good, and that you cannot have a bright light without a dark shadow behind it, and that without a frame of reference for how terrible something else is, how do we even know if this is good? You know,
Right.
like we can't. I am all about taking the good. I don't want to cast out the bad, though. Leave the bad where it is so we can see from this comparison and we can gain that perspective and cherish the good that much more, you know?
Yeah, that's a really good
The
point.
bad serves its own purpose in a way.
Yeah. Send me the comics that Kira's in, or
Yeah, absolutely.
let me know
I
which
will
one they
do.
are. So, because I'd like to get into it. I don't really have experience with Star Wars comics in general, other than some other channels that did like read throughs or whatever.
They're a ton of fun. There's a whole lot of different stuff going on. It's not necessary to read all of it, but if you are going to read certain ones, you need to start in certain places. And there are like Star Wars and Darth Vader should be read simultaneously because they reference each other constantly. And after issue 4 of Darth Vader ends, issue 4 of Star Wars begins, and you might see the same events from 2 different perspectives.
Okay.
But then again, you can read all of Star Wars, and then when you go back and read Darth Vader, it's like, oh, I kind of remember this happening in that other comic. So there's not really rules to it. You can do it in any order. Just some things complement each other really well, coming out once a week and reading them together, and then other things like the High Republic is its own thing. It's 230 years before the Phantom Menace. It's not really going to be directly referential to anything else going on in, say, Darth Vader.
I did read through the Bane trilogy.
Nice.
Recently, and that blew me away with how good it is. And I know X-Wing was in here earlier. He had to take off.
That's John Jackson Miller, isn't it? The Bane
Drew,
trilogy.
Is it Drew Karpyshyn? I don't remember.
Yeah, it was.
That sounds right. But X-Wing has been pushing for a Christopher Nolan Bane trilogy movie series.
That would be dope.
Which I would be on board with.
Speaking of X-Wing, I was kind of hoping that Michael Stackpole would be involved with the Rogue Squadron movie.
Okay, so this is Sus T, my brother, and he's at Galaxy's Edge, right? Are you still there?
I am. I am still here. Here, let me see if I can.
Oh, nice. I'm officially jealous.
Disclaimer, I'm on my phone right now, so I don't know how well this will work, and I don't have earbuds, so we will see.
I can hear you, so
I can hear you,
good.
yeah.
Okay. All right, let me see if I can.
Show us the thing.
That turns it off. Okay, I don't think I can turn it around, but I can just do this. So that's where we are right now. We just did Rise of the Resistance, I think, is what it is. Rise of the Resistance.
Was it fun?
It is so unbelievably amazing. Best ride I've done ever in Disneyland, and that's a big statement.
That is a big statement.
It is so crazy. Here's an X-Wing, by the way.
Oh, man.
That's dope.
Yes, and here's an A-Wing over here. Sorry, I'm not trying to hijack your show. I don't know what you're having going on, but
does the A-Wing seem smaller than you would expect in real life?
No, it looks about right. It's pretty big.
I saw a life-size A-Wing at a convention once, and I thought it seemed a little small.
I mean,
it does seem a little small compared to an X-Wing, I suppose.
That one looks. I mean, that one looks pretty big. It
is pretty big. Yeah.
Maybe you saw a 3/4 scale.
Yeah, it might have been. It was totally made by a fan. It wasn't official or anything.
Let me see if I can set this up right. This is gonna take me half.
You're gonna set your phone down and just make a run for the cockpit.
Yeah, that's like Obi-Wan's fighter size.
No, that seems about right. It looks like an Arctis size. Totally.
What's that?
It's like the same size as the Jedi Starfighters almost.
Yeah,
those are a little longer in the nose.
That's what I would say it would be the size of. 100%.
Hey, happy birthday, by the way.
How's it going, Elijah? Yeah, doing pretty good, dude. Pretty good. Oh yeah, bro, that's amazing. Oh yeah, I appreciate it. It was a success. The mission was amazing. Appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Where's the Falcon? Are you not next to it anymore?
No, the Falcon is over there. I'm gonna go run for the Falcon real quick. Hold on, I'm gonna drop off something. I'm sorry.
That would be awesome.
Amazing. Okay. Is there any way? Oh, are you guys okay? Is she still okay? Are you?
I don't know what's going on. What is going on?
I don't know.
So,
all
right, Sus T.
Hello.
Are you showing us anything else?
Yes, I would love to. Just give me one more second. I'm gonna mute myself real quick.
All right. I'll pop him back in if he has a Falcon. I've always said if I won the lottery, I'm going to build a accurate life-size replica of the Ebon Hawk and rent it out for Airbnb.
That would be pretty dope.
And my Star Wars collection.
I've thought about something like that before. I'm if I price was no object, had all the money I needed, I would live in a house that outwardly looked very normal, but all the interiors are Star Wars style.
Oh, I'm talking about Ebon Hawk, outside and everything.
You just own a plane hangar, and it's just parked in there.
I would plop it somewhere that looked exactly like Dantooine.
That'd be so cool.
It'd be out in the middle of Wyoming or something, and
I was gonna say Colorado or something.
Yeah,
that's got the Dantooine vibe.
Charge $500 a night for the Airbnb.
Yeah, ATST Treehouse Airbnb. I'd pay for it. I'd sleep there.
All right, are you next to the Falcon?
I am almost next to the Falcon. I just wanted to make sure you were adding me back. So I have 5 minutes to get back to that ride before they close it off, and I'm gonna show you the Falcon real quick. That's on the other side of the park.
All right. Well, I'll pop you back in when you're there.
Don't trip.
Yeah. Kennedy wants someone to steal his phone.
He's gonna trip on a mouse droid.
I wonder if they do have mouse droids there. I want a mouse droid.
I don't. You can buy a mouse droid popcorn holder there. I've seen those.
Oh, that's cool.
I'm like, and I see those things, and I'm just like, damn it, I'm gonna waste all my money, aren't I?
This is what we want in a Star Wars hotel. Yeah, give me like a ship to live in. Give me.
I would
Millennium
live.
Falcon.
I would totally crash on the guest quarters of like a YT series freighter, like nicer than the Falcon, like a 2400, like the Outrider.
Mhm.
You know, like that'd be great. Like a nasty, greasy room full of mechanical stuff, and like there's a gonk
Yeah.
droid waddling around. I'd love it. I wouldn't get a wink of sleep. I'd just be like taking selfies all night and like playing with everything. But still, it looks too clean, too sterile. Like it was too much of a Star Trekky like environment. The whole thing about Star Wars is that it's used universe. That's the visual language that was established by McQuarrie, Lucas, and Chiang. It wasn't there. Like it was missing from that Star Cruiser video.
Yeah. It's like it's a real history that actually happened, because a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away, it is a real history that happened in our universe. And like it has to have that certain vibe of like ancient, but like futuristic as far as technology to us, but it has to feel like lived through. Not
You have to have a combination of technologies that are both of this time and of previous times.
Yes.
Like you don't think about it all the time. Some of the starships they're flying around in are 1,000 years old. That happens. It's 1,000-year-old spacefaring technology.
All right, Millennium Falcon. Last thing.
Okay, so I have about 30 seconds before I have to sprint back, but here it is.
Nice.
It is so cool. Life-size replica.
Oh,
That's dope. You're just like
And I don't know if
under
the
it.
camera's that bad because it's my back camera and I can't flip it, but it is so cool.
that's
See,
amazing.
that would be
And
worth
this
it
is
for
it.
me just to stand there.
And
That's
this was
what we
made
want.
specially for the park, right? It's not like a screen prop or anything.
Correct, yeah. I'm
Right.
pretty sure this
Okay.
is just made for the park.
Is the cockpit interior articulated? Can you see in there? I mean, I know you can't from the ground
see
right
a
now, but
ton. A lot of those are just screens in that one, but on the ride that has to do with it, you can you actually go in the Millennium Falcon cockpit and you have
Nice.
6 people piloting it. And it's really cool.
That's awesome. All right, well, you get back to your ride.
I cannot wait to do that.
It was a pleasure talking with you, Kyle and Susan.
It was nice to meet you, man. Happy
Thank
birthday.
you very much. You too. I'm going to sprint back over there and hope I make it.
Good luck.
All right, have a good rest of your birthday.
Thank you very much. You too.
And come visit me.
Thank you.
Come visit me soon.
Okay, I will.
All right. They still live in California, so they'll have to come visit. But we don't have Millennium Falcons here in Tennessee, so unfortunately. I'm sure the rights to use Star Wars things and make money off of it as an Airbnb would be cost prohibitive.
Absolutely.
Yes, cease and desist order. Yeah,
I mean, the Galactic Star Cruiser basically is a Airbnb. Like,
right.
it's a really expensive one, but that's the same concept. They'd be like, yeah, Disney's not going to let some Joe 3D printer do it himself.
I would be curious. Well, if I won the lottery, I would make the Ebon Hawk and not Airbnb it. Like if I wasn't able to make money off of it, I would just build it for myself.
Sure. Be like, oh, that's just parked on my property.
Yeah, it'd be interesting. Like, what would you get the cease and desist for? Like, who owns the rights to like the design of the Ebon Hawk or the name Ebon Hawk?
It would be like the intellectual property would be copyrighted to
Just
like probably LucasArts, honestly. Although
Yeah, you're
now
probably right.
LucasArts has been dissolved and redeveloped into Lucasfilm Games, which is this new title that they're putting on like the newer releases.
Yeah.
But it would be Lucas something that comes knocking on your door.
Yeah, I could put a few shipping teenagers, hire some interior designers, and poof, better Star Wars hotel. Yeah,
I mean,
if
I
it
could make
feels
a better
right,
Star Wars hotel for the price of a 2-night stay. Give me $6,000. I could come up with something that looks way cooler than that. A one room.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just like it has to have certain design aesthetics, and what we saw in that hallway, it wasn't there.
No, it felt rushed and it felt unfinished. I felt like they should have waited until they had more to show us, and the fact that they felt like this was sufficient to show us makes me really nervous what else is there to offer in the first place. You know,
Right.
like
It could
I don't
have.
know.
It looked like the hallway could have been from any sci-fi movie in
Totally.
a spaceship, and that's not what you want. It has to
It was
have
it was
a
generic.
t-
It was generic.
Yeah.
It's like they built a Buzz Lightyear ride and then decided to switch gears halfway through and were like, you know what? Let's make it a Star Wars thing.
Yeah. And it just, but you were saying, it makes you wonder if that's what they chose to put in their promo. That's what they felt was the best thing they had to show off.
Yeah. If these are the
What?
highlights,
Yeah.
what aren't we seeing?
Like I want to, if it were me designing that hotel, first off, make the aesthetics look right. Make the sleeping quarters look like you're living on whatever ship that is, and have the events for the day be like you have like a 2-hour long Jedi training class as if you were like a new Jedi learner. Everyone's in character and you go through the class. Like put me in the universe, or like take me
that
to
sounds
like
ideal.
take me to
Absolutely.
like clone
Better
basic training,
experience.
right? Take me to Camino and give me a blaster and teach me how to shoot.
They take you to Camino and they give you a little roofie and then you wake up in like the baby pod. Like, and someone like takes you out and like swaddles you and like gives you some nutrients and then sticks a helmet on you. It's like the whole Republic Commando intro. They just do it all to you.
Some animatronic Kaminoans.
Seriously.
That would be
Oh
dope.
God, can you imagine though? Like when the animatronic goes wrong,
Yeah.
the horrible accident is like some poor park goer is like torn limb from limb by like a 8-foot tall spindly robot. Like
It's
the
Nala
stuff
Say.
of nightmares.
Speaking of Nala Say, I don't know if you heard the theory that Nala Say was working in league with the Emperor the entire time with Palpatine.
She was working in league with the Emperor from at least the time of the Zillo Beast.
Right.
That some of that far we know, but potentially, yeah, she could have. I mean, Sifo Dyas places the order. It's possible that Sifo Dyas then like slips a business card to Tanwi and to Nala Se and is like, "Hey, call Palpatine."
Yeah, just like from the very beginning.
I think that it's fair to say that Lama Su was not in cahoots the whole time. Lama Su was just trying to make some money and make a clone army for some customer. He wasn't really trying to like overthrow galactic governments. I think he was kind of a patsy, and the way they dealt with him in Bad Batch kind of proved him to be a patsy. But Nala Se, yeah, I think there's something to that. We know she's in cahoots for at least the last few years of the Clone Wars, but who's to say it wasn't longer than that even?
Yeah. Wasn't the singer the name of the bartender? Don't know.
The singer's name was Gaia, and the bartender in The Next Generation was Guinan, played by Whoopi Goldberg. But yeah, I'm pretty sure they said that her name was Gaia, as in like Mother Earth, which was yet another just like, ugh, really?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, make the hotel have Cloud City elements. Like seriously,
I would
just
totally stay at Cloud City.
Like you have so many still images and videos of all the original sets. Like recreate it. You have people do that for movies all the time, where they'll recreate stuff. That's what they were talking about in Book of Boba Fett, and recreating the set to the original specifications and everything. Like you can do it. Just do it and let us
have like I don't know, like a big dark space outside the windows of the hotel, and then you could just have drones constantly flying around it to be like space traffic, and because they're small, they look like they're far away. Like
yeah,
you totally simulate stuff going on out the windows.
Make the expensive suite look like Anakin and Padme's suite from Revenge of the Sith, where you're looking over the nights. Oh my gosh, like that might be where I would live in the Star Wars universe, either there or Dantooine. But
Coruscant?
Yeah, it's just like the city skyline, and just like walking out at night, you feel the cool air.
I think
how
I
it's
would
described
live on
in the books,
which is where Dooku made his home. It's just like the whole planet's like the south of France. It's just one giant vineyard. Serena would be pretty chill. But I think I would also like to live on Dryden Voss's like pleasure yacht from Solo. Pretty swank on that thing, and you can just fly it anywhere in the galaxy. Like,
there's so many possibilities, and they gave us hallway. It just could have been so much better. There's a lot of potential there that, based on that promo, they didn't capitalize on.
Strike, to answer your question. I guess we're going one ahead of it.
Go ahead.
My thoughts on Boba's helmet being a different mold and the armor being different as well. It doesn't bother me. I don't hate it. I think it's a continuing the proud tradition of making none of the helmets the same from movie to movie. Like the Stormtroopers had different helmets from 4, 5 to 6. Vader's helmet
Vader,
changed a whole bunch between them. Hell, Boba's between 5 and 6 is very different actually. So I'm fine with the mold changing. I've come to expect it at this point.
Right.
As for the armor being different, I've noticed. So the Iron Heart, the Beskar Gam in the center, all the armor plates are much closer packed to it. You'll notice if you look at a picture of like Jango Fett or even original trilogy Boba, there's like almost an inch and a half of negative space between the armor plates. And in this, they're almost touching. So it's more clustered on the chest. His belly is open. It allows for more freedom of movement for the actor, which is the practical reason why they did it. But in the originals, he had like a cummerbund that covered that space, which is missing. So it looks like, and now his belt is way lower too because there's no codpiece. So the outfit's very different now. And I like that it is evolving along with the character to show that he is aging. He's still he's still very capable.
Right.
But it makes sense. In universe, Boba Fett slowing down a little, being a little older, would change his costume to be a little bit more comfortable for himself.
Right.
Also, it reflects the fact that he's not just a bounty hunter. He's an underworld crime king, you know?
Yeah.
And he gets to dress that part.
And people change styles as they get older, even for something as functional as armor. Like they're not going to wear the same thing their entire life.
I would like them to explain it too. I think that they don't need to explain very much. They just need to give us a throwaway line about like the repainting armor colors would be cool. You could say something about like after being in the sand, like the Sarlacc, like my knees just aren't the same anymore. So I don't wear like, or like flowy fabric or something. Like they don't need to do much, but like a small explanation would be cool.
And Maria says, I think, going back to the hotel, I think they should have a Sith Academy experience, Jedi Academy experience, and a Bounty Hunter experience. I would substitute Bounty Hunter experience for clone experience on Camino. Personally.
Clone could be cool too.
But yeah, just like you choose your little path you go to, and however long your stay is, they have those things that you go through. Just make me feel like I'm there.
That would be an extra cool thing too, because that way you could, you would have a reason to come back and pay it all again because you did the Sith last time, and this time you want to do Jedi. So that gives them, that triples their customer rate because you have 3 different experiences. Like these are all things that they didn't think of, or maybe they were just told that this will cost us too much money and they weren't allowed to do it. Like you gotta remember that the Imagineers are not the ones that came up with everything that we're looking at. The Imagineers came up with something about 10 times better, and then we're told that the budget will only let them make this. That's how these sorts of things get developed.
Yeah.
So I'm sure that they had really good ideas starting out, and then a bunch of lawyers and accountants stripped things away until this is what they were left with. And I think that it was done in error. I think they did themselves a disservice by releasing it. But hopefully the fact that they pulled it indicates that they're actually going to listen to some of the feedback, and maybe they won't, make the same mistakes. Maybe they'll improve it a little bit.
And I just think the price point is what's turning most people off. Like
it's ridiculously high. They have 2 options. They can either increase what they're offering for that amount of money, or reduce the price to a realistic thing for what they're offering, which they're offering, I don't know, like $500.
Yeah.
$6,000
because
no way in hell.
What we saw in that promo, like it wouldn't be bad for the right price.
Right.
Probably not a very profitable price.
Not an exorbitant price. Yeah, not at all.
Right. But for someone that like me, like I love Star Wars. I have 2 kids. I gotta buy diapers. Like I'm not spending.
Exactly.
I would much rather buy a second car than go stay a night in a semi Star Wars hotel.
The stay is a different experience for you because you're paying $6,000 to be in a room with your wife and kids for 2 nights. Like with
it would just be me and my wife if we were to do that. Like,
okay,
hey grandma, you're watching the girls.
They offer it as a family rate, and so it's like you're paying $6,000 and now you're stuck in a room with 2 kids and nowhere to run. Like that's going to be a reality for a lot of families that go to this park. Like
no, at that point, honestly,
for
Galaxy's
$6,000
Edge,
you're going to get a suite. You know,
honestly, at that price point, I'll go stay in Galaxy's Edge for a few days.
Right.
Get a hotel in Disney World and stay there. It seems like it's going to be a much more immersive experience anyway.
If for $6,000, I better be defeating the Emperor myself. You know?
Yeah.
Like I better be the main gosh darn character of this whole thing.
If you're offering the right product the price is warranted. But it's a very select group of people that are going to buy at that price point anyway, regardless of what they're offering. So, do you think Boba wears pajamas?
I think Boba is one of those kinds of people who has figured out that you can just wear your pajamas all the time if you add little bits of armor to it. I think that he's unlocked the secret that few of us ever attain, and that's why he is truly the king, is because he knows he can just wear pajamas all day long. Also, the reason he doesn't have the cod piece or the rest of it is because Cobb Vanth didn't get that. Cobb Vanth only bought the chest and the arm guards and the jetpack. So the pants are lost to the digestive acids of the Sarlacc, and so that's why he wears the lower robes, at least. That's the explanation we have.
Yeah. Price point is too high for what they are going on. I pay that if you have personal experiences. Like, yeah, just offer us more and show us that you're offering more, and then people won't complain about the price. Wake up with some coffee. Yeah, Strike is
very on
in Germany.
Oh, nice.
So awesome. Well, if you got to take off, we've been going for almost 3 hours now. This is
it's getting on in time. I do have to run shortly, but I've had a lot of fun being here, man. Thank you for having me on the show.
And we'll have to do a music collab sometime if we ever get to it.
Definitely. So. And I'll be looking forward to your reactions to the Book of Boba Fett too. I'll be very interested to compare our thoughts after the fact.
You know? Absolutely. And if you ever want to come back on to discuss anything we see in any of the episodes, I'll be, streaming like I usually do. Yeah, and absolutely. You are always welcome here. So awesome. Well, everyone that came by tonight, really appreciate it. We've had some pretty consistent viewers all the way through tonight. So if you've been here since the beginning, everyone. I really appreciate your time. Everyone that came over from Kyle's channel, thank you. I hope you enjoyed your time here. Hope you stay. And everyone from my channel that is new to hearing about Kyle Katarn, please go sub to him. I put his link in the description, so please go give him your support as well. And just thank you guys for coming by tonight. May the stash be with you, and I will see you wherever I happen to see you in the galaxy.